You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 98. The Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 3, The Streets of Mos Espa. Sorry, I didn't have my thing in here. I'm sorry, Mos Espa. My bad. That was a Freudian slip. I didn't mean to call it Mos Espa. Internal joke there. I do apologize. We'll talk about that later. But thank you for joining us for this full chapter breakdown, where Jonesy and I are going to really get into an episode that I felt was probably okay. It wasn't as, for me personally, it didn't do as much for me as the last episode, but it wasn't really bad, and I really kind of enjoyed some parts of it, and we got to see some really cool familiar faces, both on-screen, off-screen kind of thing. So there's a lot to talk about, and speaking of a lot to talk about, the man with your hair looks exquisite tonight, by the way, if I could just say that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and he had these put your Bono glasses on real quick.
Oh.
Come on, put them on. He had them on. I came in, I was like, whoa, it's Bono. No, it's just Jonesy. Look at that. Huh? Yeah. All right, if you miss it, if you're listening to the podcast. How are you doing tonight?
Doing all right, man. This was a crazy week. Not only for just like stuff going on with like work, but also comic book releases, Boba Fett. I mean, it was a huge thing. It was a huge week.
Busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lots of cool news this week. Well,
there is. Let's get into the news first, because we got quite a bit to talk about when we get to the main show. But we want to give a shout out to one of our personal friends at this point. He's been a fan of the show, a supporter of the show for a number of years. We've talked about him on the show. He's actually done. He was on From a Certain Point of View.
That's right.
That was a little series that we did earlier this year that we will do again. I promise. I just keep putting it on the back burner. But Utini Dante he's now a proud father of another baby girl. So
it's such a cool name too.
Yeah, Katie Ray. Which, did he answer? I asked him if that was Ray, as in Ray Skywalker.
Well, it's spelled differently, but
it is. But that's probably to get around the wife, right? To make sure that
there's probably some concessions going on there. That's all right though.
Yeah.
You get your way, and you get the little wink and nod. It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. Tit for tat. But congratulations to them. They just welcomed Katie Ray into this beautiful world. So
super exciting.
Yep. Congrats and welcome, Katie. Hopefully you'll listen to this podcast here in 20 years from now. Your dad can tell you about how horrible we are and how wrong we are about everything. Okay.
Right.
Kidding. Let's see what else we got. We got some news for around Claudia Gray and the Fallen Star. What's the news there, Jonesy?
Yeah, super exciting. 7 for 7 with the High Republic novels going on the New York Times bestseller list at number 1. So fantastic news, and congratulations to Claudia Gray, and of course everybody that's involved. It takes a big team, kind of like a movie. It takes a big team to put a book to paper and actually get everything going. And especially these times, it's tough to get a book out there these days right now. So super exciting news. And it's a really, really good book, solid book, a must read book. So certainly encourage everyone to go out there and read Fallen Star.
Yeah, no. And I would agree too. I mean, I did the spoiler free review. At some point, we're actually going to come back and cover the actual novel and talk about it in more depth. And I'll be sure we have some critical feedback. It wasn't perfect, but it's not a bad book, and I want to keep stressing that. Go out and get it, especially if you're following the High Republic, invested in the storyline. You cannot miss this book, and this is not. It's really good.
Yeah.
There's just some things that didn't sit well with me or didn't jive with me for whatever reason.
Again, what's interesting with this book, though, and not to spend too much time on it, but what's interesting about this book is that it was the first one where I really felt like I had to have read some of the other books, and so it's we've talked about it in Discord with I know Lauren's watching the live stream right now, and it's just one of those you kind of have to get through all the other ones for it to all really make sense. All the other ones have been a bit more standalone-ish.
Yep, I would agree. It is, and I was going to include that. I had a line in my review at one point that was saying something along the lines of, this is not the book to come in on. If you're wanting to get into the High Republic, don't do it with this book, right? This is
you will be lost.
Exactly. You are buying this book because you've already read all the other ones, right? The assumption is what's going on.
Yeah, and we might be at that point. We had talked about you're not too far removed from being able to jump in on the train, and this is that first. As we get out of this first phase, this is where things start to turn a little bit. So if you're on the fence still, jump on the bandwagon. You got a really good comic series. Issue 13 just dropped today. Finally, it was a day late for some reason.
Yeah, I saw
High
that.
Republic.
I didn't see it. Yeah. No, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, everything else was out. Eye of the Storm. Ooh, yeah. You're gonna want to read Eye of the Storm, which is the Marquis Monroe comic, Charles Soule's writing.
Yep.
Crimson Rain. There's so many good ones.
Yeah, there are some really good stuff out there now. Okay. So yeah, congratulations to everybody, Michael Siglain and the whole High Republic team for consecutive number ones New York Times bestsellers.
Yeah, keep them coming.
Yep. And the haters can go eat poop because that is a
eat dank. Wait,
eat dank. No,
poodoo.
Poodoo.
Well, okay.
Yeah. Okay. You want to talk about this show?
Good, bad, and ugly.
No, yeah, it's the good, bad, and ugly. Yeah.
What was the title? The Streets of Mos Espa. Was that what I heard?
Yeah. Streets of Mos Espa. I said Mos Vespa. There's
Was
a
that
number
accidental
of
or was that intentional?
No, it was intentional.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
No, it was there, and I'm not going to take credit for it. I mean, I saw a ton of people all claiming to have come up with that title first, and I'm not going to jump into that on that bandwagon. But
Right.
I thought it was a clever name because that's kind of what I thought too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Streets of Mos Espa. Let's start with you. Let's start with the good. Again, for you're just joining us for the first time, we're going to go through the good, bad, and the ugly, things we like, things we didn't like, and things that were just plain out ugly before we get into the breakdown of the episode. So tell me what you had for good.
I'm a bit of a smart aleck this week. So
okay, that's fine.
So the good, man, I love Black Krrsantan being back. We didn't really have to wait very long to get him. And I love that he just ripped him right out of the back to tank and just tossed him around like a rag doll. It kind of just showed you the strength of the Wookiee in general, and also one that's a big ass big badass like Krrsantan is. So that's kind of my number one, good for the week. Do you have a top good for the week?
A top good, I would say for me, it was definitely the flashback sequence when he comes up on the village and after it's been burned.
Yeah.
Everything about that scene. And Robert Rodriguez was very like hot and cold on this one. Like there were moments there were like this scene in particular was amazing. Though everything about it, right? And there were a couple other ones that I thought were really, really well. The fighting scene was pretty okay. But then the other ones were not. But this one was exceptionally well for me. Everything from the way it was, the cinematography, the camera angles, the establishing shots, the way lighting, he was panning, the lighting, the music was awesome. Like I really it made it even more emotional, right? It was a very, very heavy scene. And I didn't think it was going to take it that way. But I think it's because I was so vested in the storyline in that last episode and was so pumped up and hyped up that I wasn't necessarily expecting this to happen just yet.
Right.
And we'll get into that here a little bit later because I know there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of debate about whether or not this is the last of the Tusken Raiders. You know, where does Boba go from here? What does this all kind of mean? And we've got a couple different theories and things that are kind of floating in our head about that. But that scene in particular definitely stood out for me. It was very very heavy.
It was very seamless from last episode to bring into that with where they left off, him leaving the village as well. But of course, coming back with the more tragic events. And just to let everybody know, this is full of spoilers. No holds barred. So if you are still wanting to be spoiler free after a few days, you might want to tune in later once you've had a chance to watch it.
Yeah, but, not the show for you.
Right. But yeah, I like that it was very much a continuation, and it was very consistent with what we had before too, with like all the things you said, the emotional gravitas of it, the lighting and the especially the fire burning, and how that was very contrast to the dancing we had last episode and to what we have now. So, yeah, very, very, very good scene. I really enjoyed that one as well.
I also had on my good. I enjoyed the fact that we finally saw Danny Trejo, who I'm just going to call Machete because that was his name of the movie. He was in the movie called Machete.
Right.
But I thought it would be fun to just call him that until he has an official canonized name. But it was good to see him. He is a staple of Robert Rodriguez films and TV series or TV episodes.
That we've had to wait this long is a travesty.
Exactly. Yeah. What took you that long?
Right.
But it's just the fact that he's such a cool guy.
For him to be the Rancor keeper, I mean, it's like perfect. It's like if you were to think of a role for Danny Trejo, for Machete, this is the one for him, right? And he was good. I really liked how he delivered. Like he's kind of this gruff guy, but you kind of feel like this soft spot in him too, which is just fantastic. I love that. I love that dynamic contrast.
Yeah, I posted the picture of him with the Princess Leia buns on the side of his head as a out of context spoiler. So if you get a chance to go find that picture, it's quite the image.
Yeah, he's really Leia's biological dad. Sorry.
You're right. So I thought that was great that they were able to kind of introduce him. I love that we got a Rancor, and I love the foreshadowing that was going on there.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a fan of the High Republic comics, you've seen my girlfriend Avar Chris. Now she's been known to ride those
Right.
Rancors in the past, and we'll get into the Dathomir sisters and some of that as well here a little bit later.
Yeah,
but,
that was a cool name drop.
Yep. Yeah, no, there was some good stuff in there. There were some good little Easter eggs and nuggets that we saw throughout.
Yep.
So, and yeah, I think that was probably I'll just kind of
Those are
leave it
the
at
top
that. I
ones.
mean, there's
Yeah, we'll get into
probably
some
the top
more
ones.
as we go through. Yeah, there's always little moments that are fantastic, but
Because I can just keep going. But give me your bad. Give me your bad. What did you?
the
What
bad,
did you not like?
yeah, the bad is going to be Boba Fett's chiropractor bill after dealing with
Right.
Black
Yeah.
Krrsantan, because man, I don't know how he didn't get crushed. And this is kind of like so smart ass bad, and then like really kind of bad.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like he was going limp and lifeless, and then just to kind of bounce right back. We're like kind of back in Mando territory now, where nothing really phases these folks. And
Yeah.
so that was a little, not great, but it was just funny. I love hearing the sounds though, the cracking sounds. I know not everyone's going to get into that, but the audio aspect of these is really important, for you to really sense that. And I like that his toe was like,
I saw that. It's like, what? I was looking at the screen going, what is going on with his toe? And
that's
it's like sticking
impressive, man.
straight up.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
I don't know how he gets it to bend like that. It is really,
a-
really, he's super flexible. He's a talent. You don't even know.
Double jointed toes. Who knew?
I'm telling you.
Not only can he sing and dance.
Right. Yeah. And then, yeah, the bad, I'm sorry, the whole mayor thing just isn't working for me. It's just not.
The major domo or the mayor
The
kind of
whole
situation
the
itself?
situation with the mayor in general is just not working for me. It
Okay.
just, yeah, it's not interesting enough to where I care about them. It's like, give me the Hutts, give me the Pikes, and we'll start with them, and then we'll figure out all these other clowns and how they fit in. But Mayor Mokshais is just
Mayor McCheese. You
Mayor
can say it.
McCheese. That's
Fine.
right. It just doesn't, make any. It's just not working. It's not good. So
Okay.
I'll pause there for the bad, and we'll get to more of it. But what about you?
So for me, it definitely was I'm going to call it speeder bike chase.
Yeah.
Man, like I can get past the bikes themselves. I can get past the coloring. I have reasons. Like, you're not going to like the reasons that I don't have any confirmation that these are the reasons. I have reasons as to how I can justify some of those as not being bads, right? And kind of more neutrals. But the one I feel like is inexcusable is the editing again, right?
Yeah.
We talked about
It
that
was
in
so
the first
slow.
episode.
Yeah.
So slow. I mean, even just the pickups, like from shot to shot, it's like you could have edited that to make it appear to be faster. And you could have sped the
Yeah.
video up, and they did that at the very end when she comes at the very what's her name, Dash, when she comes and does her little close-up thing that we saw in the trailer.
Mhm.
He definitely sped up that video to make it look like she was coming in much faster.
Yeah, but
And
no other
it
time.
didn't feel like they were.
Yeah, no
yeah,
other
no
time
other
didn't
time.
feel like it. Yeah.
Didn't feel like it.
Mm-mm.
There may have been like one or two times, like when they go past that protocol droid, it looked like that had been sped up a little bit, or at least the CGI, if they use that,
The fastest
was
thing in
made.
that whole scene was the rickshaw droid, like peeling out.
Yeah, peeling out, and he didn't go anywhere. He went like,
Yeah, well, yeah,
5
no,
feet,
It
10
was
feet.
5 feet, and then he stopped. I
So,
thought that was
but
funny though. I like that one because you actually got the peel out sound. It's great.
yeah. So, but I mean, yeah, I just didn't like it. I have to be honest. I just did not like the editing. It felt like it needed to be faster. And I know there are other arguments out there. Okay, these weren't speeder bikes. They were kind of like the moped equivalents. I try to rationalize the fact that, we've seen the aerial shots of what Mos Espa looks like.
Yeah.
And it is it's almost like New York, right? Or Paris or London. It's very dense with a lot of left, right turns, right? It's not like long stretches of road. And so if you think about it, I mean, could you really rev that thing up in the streets and go that fast? It feels like you are going to have to go a little bit slower and turn and all that. And we saw some of that in Rebels, right? When they were on some of these major dense kind of cities,
Yeah.
and there was the speeder chases. It wasn't like there's one that comes to mind when they're in the city itself. It is a little bit slower. Of course, it's animated, so it's always a little snappier. And then later on in that episode, they get out to like the highway, and it's just, they're ripping. I mean, they're going full speed on those speeder bikes, right? So some of that could be the fact that there was just, you don't really have the option to go, rev that thing up to whatever, 100 miles an hour, because it's not feasible. You're going to kill yourself, right? And do they really want to kill themselves? I don't think the Major Domo doesn't want to do it. He's just trying to get away.
Right. But at the same time, it has to be exciting to the viewer. I mean,
Yes.
the reality of television or of movies, right? It has to be interesting, it has to be engaging. And if you're going to have a scene go that long, you really need more of it, right? You have to overdo it at least a little bit. And Alex, yeah, that chase felt like Benny Hill. Nicely done. Yeah, but I mean, it's just falling short, and there's really no other way to put it. And again, this kind of goes back to some of the inconsistencies you were talking about earlier, which was one of my more serious uglies. But yeah,
Yeah. Oh, and just to be clear again, I want to make sure the speed at which the uh, chase was happening was slower than I wanted or expected. I think they could have compensated with that with just quicker, snappier edit.
yeah,
Right. That would go a long way to at least kind of build attention. But there were some shots that he was just holding on to. They were just
they were
lingering,
they were much longer than
and
they
they
should
were
have been.
going so slow as he was holding on those shots and lingering and just kind of brought everything down. So enough of that.
Yeah,
Okay. But that was probably my only real bad. Beyond that, I thought everything else was either just pretty okay or fun, great, and I enjoyed it. So,
yeah,
all right. What about your ugly? Do you have an ugly?
yeah, yeah. So if Boba Fett's chiropractor bill was bad, the veterinarian and rabies bills are going to be even worse for Black Krrsantan biting everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. He
Uh,
was
it,
all about biting people in
it
this
really was,
episode.
and actually it was kind of cool that he bit Boba's hand, but I don't really remember
Hmm.
seeing any blood or anything from it. So again, you kind of get these things, but you don't have really any, you don't have any, fallout from it. There's no, it just doesn't feel like it's enough at risk. There's not
Yeah.
enough at stake, and I think those are a bit disappointing in that regard. For as much as I like, Black Chrysanthemum being there, it was a little bit, yeah. Anyway, I liked all the biting; it was good. But the the other aspect of it, though, again, the ugly for me was a lot of the lack of lack of just like hanging on the shots too long, the inconsistencies of just how the episode felt, where you could really do something so powerful with the Tuscans in this episode, when they were slaughtered, but then you struggle so much with these close up shots of these kids, and they're somehow poor kids with their very expensive all matching bikes and modifications, which is always great. But yeah, that's the thing that it just takes you out of it, because then you're just like, wait, what? And it just throws you out of it. And I just don't like, I,
Mm.
I want to be immersed in it, and I don't want to feel like I'm being yanked out of it. There's sometimes where you can like, oh, okay, I'll forgive that. No big deal.
Yeah.
And I'm,
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
very,
Right.
and I'm usually very easy to please. I may not be totally interested, but I'm pretty easy to please. But this one just really bugged me, just how back and forth it felt the entire time and we even saw it with the Black Chrysanthemum fight. And you mentioned this a little bit before, is that, some of it was, you throwing Boba around everywhere, but again, they're not really getting hurt. The way that the kids come in, and not so much that they ganged up on him and kind of beat Black Chrysanthemum. It was more like the casual nature of the girl, or her name is Dash. I didn't realize she had a name
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. Well, not officially, but yeah, that's her name.
Oh, okay. Like Rainbow Dash. Anyway, so but she like does the switchblade and is walking up casually to a giant Wookiee that's hurting your brand new employer that you have nothing in stake with. It was just,
Mm.
it's just a little heavy-handed, a little on the nose for me.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't. That's definitely fair criticism. There's a Facebook group that I follow, and in that group, they've been kind of talking about these episodes. And for the most part, I would say a lot of the people that are in that group are probably in their mid 30s to mid 40 range, right? So a lot of the Gen Xers, they grew up with Star Wars, the original trilogy. And they've been all kind of pretty consistent about, hey, I actually really like the Book of Boba Fett. It's a lot of fun to watch. I enjoy it. I'm not like pissed when I turn it off. I want to see the next episode.
Right.
But at the same time, they have a lot of the same criticisms we have. But I think the one thing that I've seen that's very consistent is all of their kids love this show. Like
Mm.
they are like head over heels about everything, and they have no criticism about this. And we've talked about this to no end, right? About sometimes we've got to, as you get older, we just have to accept that the new Star Wars stories are really not made for us. I mean, great if we can connect to them and love them, perfect. But we have to remember how much we loved Star Wars as kids and how we were so not critical of Star Wars as kids. And going back, and you, Mike, and I were on a chat, and I'm getting off on a tangent, but it's relevant. You, Mike, and I were on a chat on Discord, and we were talking about if we really wanted to, like if we really wanted to be super objective and go in and criticize the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy,
shred it.
I could shred it to pieces with the inconsistencies, the hokiness, all of that stuff. But where's the fun in that, right? I mean, that's not what Star Wars is about, right? So, anyways, that's just to kind of bring it all back to that. I totally get what you're saying, and there's certainly things on there that feel more exposed than others, and we'll get to that here in a little bit too, because there was moments where I felt like Rodriguez was channeling Spy Kids. If you've ever seen that series, just the way some of the scenes were shot and all that. And that's not necessarily criticism, but those movies were extremely popular with kids.
Right.
But as an adult, you watch that and you're like, man, this is kind of hot garbage. I would never actively go out and try to, watch this movie because I love it. It's just
never say
I wasn't target
it.
audience.
Never say anything bad about an Antonio Banderas movie.
No, I know. There's probably people in here that can be mad that I just threw some shade on.
Hey,
Kids.
One thing before I forget, because I'm terrible about forgetting. One thing that I really liked was Stephen Root in this episode, though. He was just, as soon as I saw him, I was like, holy moly, are you serious? I didn't realize he was in it. And
was that the Milton?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, Milton. Yeah.
Milton from Office Space.
Right. Yeah. So he was the one beseeching Lord Fett to intervene with these rascallions.
Yeah, he was the watermonger.
The watermonger. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Your inventory is water. I love it.
Sorry, tonight's episode is brought to you by Taco Bell. Taco Bell, the official Mexican food.
We just got flagged.
Did we? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'll give you my bad really quick. The bad
ugly.
For me,
ugly.
The ugly. Yeah, no, the ugly was I could go on about the twins again, and that is a mole, man. I'm telling you, there was a closer shot now, and I just could not. I was like mesmerized.
Were you like Austin Powers? Mole.
Yeah, exactly. My eyes were glazed over. I couldn't stop staring at it. But apart from that, and apart from, we'll get to that, the male Hutt and what he does, it's kind of discussing a little bit later. But I would say, I guess for me, the other ugly was just seeing Boba in his underwear. Like, I don't know what that was like. I kept staring at it and I was like, this doesn't feel right. It's kind of awkward. Should I be watching this?
Right.
Yeah. So,
well,
he's got some pretty good underwear. Like my crack would have been out by that point, but it stayed in there the entire time, even getting thrown around by Wookiee.
They reminded me of the old Weapon X costume for Wolverine. Yeah, whenever he's in
exactly. Yeah,
all the hoses, but he's
got like a loincloth on or whatever it is.
Like this giant metal diaper of sorts. Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's what it was—a metal diaper. So, well, what a comic book nerd you are.
Yeah, it's becoming a problem.
I'm not keeping up with the chat, and I do apologize. So I'll get caught up here. All right. Anything else that you want to consider or call out as being an ugly, or do you want to get into this?
Although we're being called out for not having Danny Trejo in our good, but I'm pretty sure we gave Danny Trejo a lot of love.
Who said that?
Yeah.
No, I did. I did say he was in my good.
Yeah.
I said it was good to finally see him, and what the hell took so long? Because or it's Robert Rodriguez, and I said we're going to call him Machete. So everybody, that's his new name until proven otherwise. Okay, let's get into this. I'm going to share my screen because I did take 8 million screenshots, so that we can kind of follow along here if I can find it. And it opens with that first scene that we've all very familiar with. We've kind of dissected this to no end, so we're not going to really spend a lot of time on this. But I guess the only question is, 3 episodes in, coming up on the halfway point now at this point, we had speculated, maybe we see more Bomar Monk mystery and all that. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case, though, right?
Right, just a cameo. Yep.
Just a cameo, right? Nice little shout out there. And then we get into this. The next scene here was where 88 is kind of giving him that breakdown of, and this is, we were looking forward to this, right? Like,
yeah, this is what we needed. Questions. Yeah.
Yes. We needed to have some kind of understanding of the landscape and what that looked like after the power vacuum. I'm glad he said that too, right? He acknowledges, or 88 mentions that there was a power vacuum when Jabba left. And it sounds like, if to summarize, I would say Bib kind of took over. He chose alliances to kind of keep things going, but was really never in charge of anything.
Right.
Well, at the same time, the Mos Espa was kind of divided into 3 groups. You had the Aqualish, the Trandoshans, which now makes sense. We were talking about that. It's like, why are they so focused on these Trandoshans?
And they were
in the last episode,
right through the heart of the city. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where they've kind of congregated and they've kind of made their claim to that area. And then you had the Cladoinians. Cloudwidians on the starport upper level area. So they kind of have their own little districts, right?
Yeah,
If you will.
the workers district. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think about that? What did you think about the way it was kind of all broken down and
It makes
just
sense.
the information?
It makes total sense to me because Bib Fortuna is weak, right? There was no way for him to maintain his power without conceding something, and so for him to divide up the city, was probably the best that he was able to do, and the only thing that really he probably could do in order to preserve any amount of power. And again, it was a title thing for him too, and that makes sense for the character. And so I think I liked that we got that aspect of it, and it makes total sense to me. And again, it's typical mafia mentality of everybody has their own little section of the world, right? And they all, you
Hmm.
stay on your side, I stay on my side. We're all, everything's good, but just don't cross that line. And if you cross that line, then we're gonna have some problems. So it made a lot of sense.
Yeah. Hold up. I got this is so Ash said, don't forget about the people complaining that Drash had zippers on her outfit. Did you catch that?
I no, I guess I did
Zippergate.
not.
Oh
No.
my goodness. I mean, give me a break. And the
I mean,
I forget
we're
who.
gonna give her crap too because she had like a belt chain, that
Oh
type of thing.
geez. It's so ridiculous. And you know what? If you follow Star Wars based on the movies alone, I see where a lot of criticism comes from, right? Even the bikes and the colors, which I'm going to tell you, I'm going to defend when we get to that part. I don't really care for it, but I'm going to defend it because we've seen all of this crap before. It's just you haven't seen it because all you've seen is the freaking movies, right? So, and I don't, you know who I'm talking about, you out there listening. But the zipper gate, Luke Skywalker's, the X-wing, the brash pilot
Yeah.
jumpsuits, the orange ones, they have zippers on them.
Yep. Because
And there's a scene where he's zipping it up. So
right.
shut up. They're out there. Okay. So getting back to, oh, I'm so tired of all the complaining. Here we go. Here's where we get some more imagery. We're just going through the images here of where 88's kind of showing on the landscape and the map of who owns who. I love this. It was all very like nice and neat. Gave me a very kind of high level overview, no pun intended, about how this was all kind of split up. And we also find that Bib was kind of paying Mayor McCheese as kind of like a tribute. And so this would explain why when the Major Domo came over, he was like, hey, where's my tribute? Because that's what he expected, right? He's been getting that from Bib Fortuna. And now suddenly Boba Fett, who's in charge, is not paying that. So,
Right.
And we'll get to him in a little bit because
Yeah.
there's a.
Yeah. I want to tie back to.
Oh, you want to do it now?
No.
Go ahead.
When we'll get to the Hutts. I want to talk more about all of that.
Okay. We'll come back to there in a little bit then. Then we get the visit here by his name is Lortha Peel, I think is what they announced him as. So,
Yep.
What did you like this guy? I couldn't feel him out. Like, I don't know if we're done with him. This is just a one and done kind of cameo. It seemed like at the very end, and not to jump ahead, but it seemed like after he told him, hey, you're paying $500 and we're calling this over with, and you're going to bring down your prices. It kind of gave this little look like, I'm going to do something about that. But what did you think about him?
The character I liked. I mean, he's sleazy. He's clearly buttering them up in this really weird way. And but I don't think we're done with him at all. I think he's definitely out. He's got an angle. He wants to protect what's his. Yeah, I don't think he has a whole lot of ambition, but I think now he's in a position where he's definitely ready to backstab someone. And I think the thing that we're starting to see though is that we're Boba. Well, a couple of things. One, Fennec has got to be getting tired of this.
Right.
Right.
Let me kill somebody.
Well, exactly. Well, and she's like, "Does he have an appointment?" And Boba just lets anyone walk in. Like, you don't need an appointment. It's very casual. He can talk back to him. He's giving everybody so much leeway. And Fennec is just getting like, I don't know how she's not more done with it, given like some of the reactions that she had, because she just like sighs and rolls her eyes.
Yeah.
At least once or twice an episode whenever he pulls this kind of thing. And some of these folks, I mean, you kind of understand her perspective on it. He's still a crime lord. You still have to represent your strength and things like that if you're going to, survive on this planet and then with these folks. It's just how it works. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it, but
Yeah.
I understand her perspective on it too. Like, what are you doing? You did all this to get here, and now you're just letting everybody basically trample all over you while you walk around the streets, talking to people.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah,
not,
it's
and
like
you're not getting anywhere.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't disagree. I think she's fully within her right to kind of question a lot of that stuff, and because she knows what's been effective, right? And he's so naive, right? Later, there's a really good scene later on. Like, there's a very genuine scene later when they're sitting there at the dinner table, and he's like, I got to do something. And like,
Yeah.
you can see it on his face. He has no idea what to do. He is clearly out of his league. Like he got in this position. It's like, okay, great. Now I need to figure this out. And he is
Right.
trying to figure it out, but this is not what he's used to. And a part of me still questions whether or not this is what his end game is and what he plans to do with this all. And we're going to get to that here in a little bit. I think we kind of touched on that as a theory or speculation in the last episode. And I think after this episode, I think it was kind of confirmed and hardened for me. So I do want to come back to that, but it does feel like he is trying to run a Fortune 500 company more than he is,
Right.
a mafia type organization. And that doesn't, you can't just go ahead and you can't expect to change things so drastic like that. And everyone else just kind of conform right to that.
It's kind of like the kid that inherits his parents, fortune.
Mhm.
And they just expect everything. They don't know how to actually do any of it. They just sit back and expect everything to be catered to them. I mean, it's a trope. It's in TV and movies. I'm not saying this is reality by any stretch of the imagination, but it's that same type of idea. He just expected to plop himself in there, sit on his butt, collect tribute, and then complain about getting served too much food. I just don't. It doesn't. I'm with you. We need to see some sort of ambition. Like, what is it that he's actually wanting to do? And whenever later on he says he's bringing order to the streets, no, you're not. It's like, what are you really wanting to accomplish? And it's clear that they're just going to keep. This is going to get worse. And I think
Yeah.
the Pike, what we're seeing with the Pikes is just the beginning.
Do you remember in the first episode, we talked about that line where she said sometimes violence is I don't know, what is it, better answer.
Yeah,
Whatever that line was.
ruling with fear. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, yeah. I had asked you. I kind of asked a question about: do you think he's going to be going up against that? Do you think at some point he's going to keep trying to do what he wants to do, but he's just going to have to give in, and conform because he's going against the grain, right? If you go back to Legends, this is literally thousands of years in terms of how these syndicates have been run, right? The names change, but in terms of how they run has never changed. It's always the same stuff. And here you have somebody coming in and saying, "Oh, I'm going to be different. I'm going to change the way we kind of rule and gain respect." And I don't know. It just feels like at some point maybe is just going to break down and say, "You know what? Forget it. Violence is the only answer right now," and he's going to pull the Band-Aid off and go, ape, what? So, which he may do at the very end of all this when we get to my theory. So
he's certainly starting to. I mean, like you said, he has to send a message. What other message do you think he's going to send?
Yeah.
It's one of,
and did he send a message in
strength.
this episode?
Well,
I don't know that he did.
That was in response to the Hutts, but yeah.
Right. Okay, well, let's move on here. So, and we didn't really talk about it, but this guy's mad because these kids have come in. They're stealing his water.
Stealing my water.
Get off my lawn. Get off my dirt.
That's right.
Get off my sand. Get
off my pond.
There you go. He calls him half man, half machine.
Yeah, I love the disdain he has for that.
Yeah. And he tells him, "Hey, I'll give you twice the amount of tribute if you can get these gang members out of here." So cool. That gets the setup, right? That's his quest, the little mission that he accepts for this episode.
Agreed. Cool.
And this was a great shot. I love this. Like the nighttime of it's really dark. So anybody that's watching, I apologize, but I did love that.
I would love for them to do an overview to see if that shape of the lights actually is something, because it almost looks
like some pattern or something.
Yeah, it almost looks like a design of some sort.
Okay, and then we have these guys. We have Boba, the whole team here moving in, and this is where they confront the kids, which I'm calling the spy kids. And I mean that lovingly because at the very end they are acting like spies, when they're spying on the Pikes.
Right.
So we'll call them. I'm going to call them spy kids. But I don't know. Okay, so let's just pull the Band-Aid off on this one. What did you think about the look, the bikes? I know there's been a lot of feedback, a lot of criticism about, hey, they look too clean. They don't look like Star Wars, which I'm just so tired about hearing. They don't, their outfits don't look like. I've heard the feedback about, okay, well, if they're poor, then how do they afford these fancy bikes and all of that stuff? But give me your kind of thoughts. I mean, it is out of place. I will say that it does look out of place for Mos Espa.
Yeah, I think, and that's where I come from. If you're on Coruscant, this stuff would fit in a lot better. So when you're saying it's not Star Wars, that's BS because it is. It just might not be Tatooine Star Wars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably, if people were to sit back and think for 5 seconds, that would be where they land. So they're very different for Mos Espa. And do they fit in? No, I mean, and I think that's the point. they're their own thing. They're very, for lack of a better word, kind of steampunkish, if you will. That mentality of we're outsiders and have no interest in being part of it. But just because they're, and I think I had the original. I think I made a similar comment though, that they don't have money yet. They all have matching bikes that look like they're in really good shape and so on and so forth. But you put your money where you want to put your money at the same time, right? And they
Yes.
and again, they're kids. They're later on, they're comparing whose bike is faster than the others. Right? I mean, they're just doing stupid kid stuff at this point. But some of these are cool. Like, I mean, so this guy, he's got a really cool eyepiece or whatever, which I thought was pretty neat. And there's another one who has,
Cyclops.
yeah, well, there's another one with an eye, kind of like Cable. I want to keep using comic references.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's more. We got more comic. I saw the show notes. We've got more comic references.
So yeah, I mean, but I thought it was pretty cool. I didn't notice in the original trailer that she had a bionic arm actually. And when I go back and watch it now, I'm like, oh, it's obvious. But but yeah, are they out of place? Sure, but I think that's the point. And are they not Star Wars? No, they are Star Wars.
Right.
You're just in a different environment than you're used to. So what about you?
Yep.
What's your take on them?
Well, I'll give you my take, but Dante's in the chat, so I want to acknowledge him and say, hey, congratulations officially on the new baby girl. We're all excited. Can't wait to see more pictures. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay, so my take on these guys is I'll give you a true life anecdotal story here. So there was a part of my life where I grew up in a very small town. I've lived in two very small towns. One was Somerset, Texas, and Alex can attest to this. My brother, he's in the chat right now. We lived in Somerset, Texas, right? And Somerset is about as dirty as you can get, right? There's a lot of the roads had no pavement. They were just literally dirt roads. And this is even the downtown area. I'm going to call it downtown. There were a lot of dirt roads. And a lot of people that lived there were older people. There were a lot of older vehicles. It was like, even though the time was 1987, it felt like 1967. The vehicles were older. All
Right.
the buildings were older, right? It just overall, aesthetically, it looked old. However, you knew where the high school kids were, because the high school kids, even though that wasn't part of the culture of that town, they knew that in San Antonio, kids were driving these types of cars, or this was the coolest color, or this was the latest fashion, right? They were fully aware of that, because that's what they do as kids.
Right.
They try to make, create their identity during this phase of everything going on. So they want to mimic what they see in the big towns, right? And so the way I saw this was simply like that, right? This is how Krrsantan dresses. That's the fashion. They may have, I don't know, holo videos or something. They're like, heck yeah, I want to look like that. And yeah, they're going to stand out. But you know what? That's drawing attention to them.
Yeah.
What more?
That's the point.
Yeah. That's the point. As a kid, you want all the attention. That's why we color our hairs different colors, or why we get really annoying things put on our vehicles so that as we drive, it sounds like it's farting the entire time. There's just things that kids do to draw attention to themselves, because that's what they want. That's what they need. So that's why I rationalized this. And I didn't really even think much of it. Like, I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, these look like kids in a small town that are really trying to stand out and look like the big boys or the bad boys, bad girls, whatever, out in Coruscant or some other big planet.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the atrocious zippers are on here too, which I just cannot believe. Oh my God. Okay. So that was kind of how I took that. As far as the vehicles go, and there was a thread on Reddit. So again, I'm not taking credit for this, but there was a thread on Reddit that was talking about a group called the Mod, which were in London at the time during the 60s. And they were a group of kids that were all kind of buying the same Vespas and driving around town. And they looked there were some images that they had, some color images of them on that thread, and they looked a lot like this. And I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but it does look like this is where the influence came from, that Jon Favreau was pulling directly influence from the Mod, which was in London, and this biker gang that was on mopeds and Vespas. So
they definitely have this kind of punk feel to them as well, like that you would have found in London back then.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't really have a problem with it. The speed, again, the editing, I think, is where it fell short for me.
Yeah, exactly.
The only other, I guess, the only fair level of criticism that I would have here is they did feel like they were just kind of jumping in and falling in line with Boba Fett when they really have no allegiance to him.
Right.
They were already, I love the fact that he was restraining himself. You could almost see him struggling to restrain himself as much as he was, because, I mean, she was pretty kind of a snot-nosed kid when she was talking back to him, right?
But she wasn't wrong either.
No, and she said, go back to your palace.
Yeah.
They
You're no different than everybody else that's come through here. Yep.
right, and they're blaming him for the situation that they're in, right? So I mean, they didn't really get into this, but I mean, we can pretty much. I think what they were trying to convey is like things are really rough in here. Water's scarce. People are, you know, reverting to like violence and theft and all that just to get water. And she blames more than the crook over here that's charging so much more for the water. She blames the daimo,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
She blames Boba Fett. Like, this is your problem. This is your district.
Yeah, exactly. These are the people that they pay you tribute. So you're cool with everything that goes on around here, and not enough work and all these things that go around. So yeah, I mean, first person you're going to blame is at the top, right?
Yep. And there's no work to be found, even though in the
Right.
work district. But
And it shows you how out of touch Boba is with the boots on the ground, like what's actually going on. He walked into this situation, and again, he's out of his, like you were saying earlier, he's out of his element. He really does not know what is actually happening in the city. He really did just expect to sit back and let the riches flow in. And that seems so unlike Boba Fett. So I hope we get some clarity around what his actual intent was with all of this stuff. That there's got to be something else, right? I'm hoping there's something else that we get some idea with.
okay, I want to talk about Ferric and Dank Ferric, because I had thought Dank Ferric was I don't want to say it on the air because
Yeah, GD type.
the GD. Yeah, let's do that, right?
Right.
But he calls her he calls her a dank.
Yeah.
So the way I took that is, okay, that doesn't mean, that means SOB, right? You son of a dank is really what it is.
See,
Is that how you read it?
No, I took it as like she's a little dank, like you little dank, because she was talking.
You little damn it.
Well, no, sh.
Oh, gotcha. You think it's poop?
Well, not that. I mean,
For the second time on this show tonight, we have now talked about poop. This show is really starting to rock bottom out.
But if you think about what he said, like he said, do you, if he's talking about you talk, if you're talking smack, right? That's how I read it in that sentence, though. But maybe Dank's got multiple meanings to it. That's always
maybe
possible.
It's different, multiple connotations. The way I heard it was, if somebody goes Dank Ferret, they say son of a, what?
Yeah.
And then that last word is BITH. And so that's when he called her a little BITH. So see, a Dathomir witch with a capital B. How about that? See what I did there?
Yeah, thank you. We've achieved we've unlocked a new achievement of how far we've gone down.
You're welcome.
But again, it was like to see if she can back up her, her talk. Anyway, I wish we had the actual quote up here. We could really break this down for another 45 minutes.
We're not going to. All right, let's get the rest of these images here. So this is them going back and forth, and then we get old Milton here, Crazy Eyes Milton, coming out. He's not happy because, hey, this is not going the way he wanted, and it got worse for him. It was like, pray I don't alter the deal any further. It was almost like he was giving it back to this dude with what Vader did to him. So, or what he did to Lando, anyways.
I like that he dogged Mos Eisley. You can go to Mos Eisley basically and work.
Yeah, right. Like cheap shot at them. Like,
right,
go there. That's a crap place.
Fennec had a nice little scoff.
What do you think about the colors? We didn't really touch that, and I won't spend too much more time on that. But I think there's a outside of the, hey, they're kids. They're not gonna paint them silver or dirt gray, burnt orange, right? All these really earth tones that we see in Cantina or Tatooine.
Right.
That is probably one reason, because they're teenagers and they want something flashy. But the other reason I thought too is when you start trying to do a speed chase in some place like this where the color is very uniform, you kind of need something to make it pop, right? You got to be able to follow. Now, was it going fast enough that they need to do this? Probably not, but I get why they may have decided to go with the Power Ranger colors as opposed to just making them, more neutral or
maybe they were Skittles and just chasing the rainbow. But yeah.
Oh, geez, maybe. Yeah.
No, I mean, the thing is, the color palette on Tatooine is so muted and so bland, right? You need something to kind of pop out and to give you something interesting to look at. And again, it just makes sense with the the way the kids are, that they would have something that stood out amongst everything else on the city, and that they're not dirty and dingy, and they take care of their stuff, even though they're street rats effectively.
Yeah. And there he is. And that's the look he kind of gives there at the very end. Milton.
Yeah.
I think what's his real name? Like, yeah, Lortha Peel.
Lord's appeal.
Lortha Peel. So,
Even
yeah, it was kind of like you darn kids in your bionic arms and high dollar Vespas or high credit Vespas.
Right. I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you kids.
Yeah. The Streets of Mos Espa. I am going to Photoshop that in at some point and post it. So
You have to put like a big V, like in the V for Vendetta.
Oh yeah.
So it's like a
do
racer
that.
V. Oh yeah, that's what you could do. Like do a nice big, like
Okay, we're moving on.
Okay.
Stop it. Nice cool
establishing
little
shot. Yeah.
establishing shot, but it was always cool. This is now the second time we've gotten this in the tributes to Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Was it Return of the Jedi in the original one, or was that a special edition thing they did that in?
That's a good question. I almost can't keep them like just I can't disseminate them between them or sometimes.
Yeah, and it's funny because as time goes on and we watch the special editions more and more and more, it's like
Those
those
become the
memories of
ones.
what used to be so just keep fading and deteriorating. So
Yeah. I want to say that was in the original.
okay, we'll go with it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Dante's
Here we
in
go.
the chat. Dante, tell us what's going on.
I know, dude. What's going on? What do you got? A new baby?
I know. Gosh, all
Let's
they
go,
do
man.
is sleep.
Here is the the Nook of Boba Fett.
Back to the tank.
And back to the tank, yeah. So we get this shot again here of him kind of dreaming the same dream, which I thought was interesting that they decided to show this yet again with one slight variation. Otherwise, it's exactly the same shot.
Right.
We get to this point here, and instead we get that kind of transition of showing him in the back to tank instead of the younger Boba Fett. But one thing about this, just quickly, so Daniel Logan. Some of you may know who Daniel Logan is. He's the one that played this kid here, Boba Fett, in Attack of the Clones. He posted yesterday, I think, on Instagram or Twitch or Twitter. I forget which one it was, but he made a little sly comment about, "Hey, really loved tonight's episode." It was a picture of like this. I really love tonight's episode. The show's so much fun. Something along the lines of, "You never know who's going to pop up next," and there was like a little wink and a nod. And of course, this set everybody on fire because they thought, okay, are we going to get more flashbacks like this when, as he's in this dream state or dream sequences where maybe we get somebody like Daniel Logan that comes back to reprise that role? Any thoughts around whether you'd want to see that? Do you think he looks close enough to him at this point, or?
You know what? He looked, the way they modeled him in Clone Wars, very much still maintained the look of Daniel Logan.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, and granted, he's in his 30s now, right? I think something like that. I
Sure.
think he's a little younger than we are, but yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with him coming back. I think at some point you need to explain what this sequence is about. What is it actually trying to tell us? With watching Django leave.
I thought we covered that.
We did, but I mean, they need to tell us.
You don't like my answer. I know what it is.
Well, no, I want to see if you're right for a change.
Oh, yeah.
I look forward to singing your praises about being right. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase.
Oh, well, thank you. I like the way you turn that frown upside down.
That's right.
I said that, and I don't know, maybe it was on the show or not, but the way I vision this is just, he's got this daddy left me and has always left me kind of trauma, right? I mean, dad was always out doing really shady things. And we talked about the legacy of his name and all that from the dream sequence and the symbolism of the tree and the family tree and all that, and kind of him breaking away, trying to be his own. And I think this, for me, this is what this really is just saying this poor kid was probably left too many times all on his own with no one to talk to but creepy old Ton Wei. Yeah. And amongst all these clones that looked like his dad, but they really weren't his dad, that had to be creepy. You know what I mean? You're missing your dad and you see hundreds of people that look just like him, but they don't love you. They're not reciprocating anything. They're not his dad.
Right.
So I think it's just that. I think it's just the loneliness of constantly being left alone while dad goes out and, kills some people or whatever. But
right. But how does that translate into, why is it important now? Yeah. I think that's the part, the disconnect there is like, what's important now? Why does he recall that now, aside from having to blaze a trail, all on his own and be kind of accountable to really a system rather than just himself?
Yeah. I'm just going through M Letter 71 says he doesn't look the same now.
Yeah, he's got the last I saw him, he had a beard and stuff like that. But yeah. It's probably all the Hawaiian shirt.
34. Ash came through for us. 34
There you
years
go.
old.
So he's just a little bit younger than us because you and I are barely over 35.
Barely.
Barely, just a little bit.
Okay, so we get this flashback, and this is where like all of this was, I thought was pretty good. I mean, it was kind of okay, but this is a pickup right after the events of the last episode, where he is now going to collect on the money that he told the Pikes they were going to have to pay. Right, they were going to have to pay now because they were traversing these lands that belonged to the Tusken Raiders, which I thought was, we didn't talk about this, but I like that they mentioned that the Tuskens have claimed this land ever since the oceans dried up. Right, so they're an ancient race at this point, if you want to look at it that way. But yeah, so we get these shots, and it's very, very different. This is like, you think about where he's come with this character at this point. And he's riding off on one of their banthas, dressed like them, with their weapons and the respect of everybody. I mean, everybody's watching him go. The kid's looking at him. The dog's even wagging his tail. I mean, it's just he's a part of this. This is his family. This is part of his tribe.
I love this shot right here of him.
Oh yeah, I did too.
The sun in the back. Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff here. And then again, more. Did banthas go any faster? I mean,
no. He could have walked this faster.
I've always wondered, like, if they just show them walking slowly, because, and like, what is the? Never mind. I was gonna say, what's the benefit of a bantha? There's got to be something else that's much more faster, like a speeder bike or another animal. Walking, right? There's got to be something we're not aware of. But anyways,
they do carry a lot of stuff.
Sure, they're pack mules. Pack banthas. He makes his way over to Mos Eisley. We get this shot here, which is basically 2 callbacks to The Mandalorian, the helmets on the spikes, which when we talked about that episode, that was done to kind of send a message to the Empire, like, you're done, right? Go away. You're not welcome here anymore. And this is what's going to happen to you should you come back. And then we get Afro lady back there, Afro Jack, was her
Pelly?
Yeah, Pelly Motto.
Yep.
And the pit droids.
And her pit droids. Yep.
It's cool. I like Easter eggs like this, or like,
it wasn't an Easter egg. The only complaint I had about this, like, I thought it was fine that she was in there, but that they panned over and watched her go
and watched her walk away.
It was like a little too much.
Right there.
Right. It was like, was this a contractual thing? Did you have to like show her for 3 seconds or something like that?
Yeah. It would have been cool if they just kind of flashed it up there. I'm with you. If they would have just, we would have caught the very end of her walking off.
Right.
Rather than lingering on this shot. But it's not as egregious as, oh, he runs into her and then they have a little quick conversation and she walks off. I mean, that would have been very true. Okay. So at least we got that. At this point, he heads over to the Pikes to confront them, collect his payment. Goes down into this little, I don't know, I call it a Pike embassy. Well, I'm not sure what this is. But yeah, this was interesting. Like, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. He finds out that someone's already collected this payment. And the Pikes are kind of in a position where they're like, look, man, we'll deal with whoever, and we respect whoever. But sorry, the higher ups over on Obadiah tell me I can't pay twice. That's just not fair. So you're gonna have to figure that out. And it was cool because I thought Tamora Morrison did a really good job of kind of showing that he was just as much shock as him as he was. But I think the key takeaway for us was that we got the name of the Kintin Striders, which starts with a K, which was the letter we said was on written in Now Hutta.
Right.
So we got that right. Check. At least that it was a K. And the Kintin Striders, I didn't realize it until he said it, but that Kintin, we were talking about the logo. It looked like a Rancor I said it's a Rancor with a hammer. Remember that? I said, or whatever it was. Well, that's one of the little chess pieces from the Hollow chess. It's what's the official name of that thing? It's not Dinjarin board. It's the Djarik board. Yeah. There's one of those creatures that looks kind of like a really chubby Rancor with what I'm talking about? Yeah. He's got that one mace or whatever it is.
Right.
That's the logo. That's the thing that we were looking at or trying to focus on that looked like a Rancor, or I said a Rancor skeleton of some sort. So, whew, man, I'm glad we uncovered that one.
Yeah. I was losing sleep.
Okay. So where are we?
What is with him with the glove and the swirling of the drink?
He's a classy guy. He's like the Platter Peanuts guy. He's just, he's got a cane and a top hat. He's got his top hat behind him somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah. The bikes are a lot cleaner than I would have thought. Like when you watch Solo, they had
that's a good point.
Stuff dripping out. I mean, they always seem like, kind of a disgusting
Yeah, like a greasy looking, oozing stuff. Yeah, I know what
maybe
you're talking
that's
about.
just maybe that's just what happened when you're in Kessel and you're the dregs of the galaxy, I guess.
Well, think about like real world. If you ever go to like here in Texas, you go to like one of these oil towns. You
Yeah.
look at people and they're like, I mean, they've been coming off a shift. They're covered. They're filthy.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it. And these guys are just kind of sitting high and mighty, running things, but they're not out in they're out mining things or exposed to any of that stuff.
Right. Risk pay list. They look like walking cockroaches.
Do they?
I love our listeners.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I do. I think they do. He's a bougie? Oh, he's bougie.
Bougie.
I didn't know what that term was until
Leave it.
like
Leave it to
couple years
Twan to
ago.
class this joint up.
Yeah. Okay. And at this point, this scene here, this is where I was talking about like all of this is just
Bubba's
really good stuff.
Yeah, Bubba's got to go take care of the Kintan Strider problem.
Yep. There's a sorry. Josh says plenty of time on Tatooine to polish your bike twice a day. Yeah, that's why they're so clean. What else are you going to do there?
Yeah.
Drink beer, polish your Vespa. And then, so yeah, seeing the smoke come up ahead, I was like, oh crap, this is not good. And then, he does a really good job. Like, I don't think we give him enough credit. I mean, sometimes it feels like he's kind of hot and cold and he's never bad,
right?
But there are times when it's just kind of like, all right, he's not the best actor, but then he has moments like this where I'm like, wow, he's really digging in deep for this kind of stuff, which I thought he did really well. I love this shot when it kind of, he does I hate to say this because Robert Rodriguez has his own kind of style, but there's a particular shot that Spielberg does where he kind of comes in close on the face, right, and then he pulls back slowly and gives you the full view, right, that long, kind of long shot. And he used that technique here, which I thought was beautiful because it gives you he sets the tone on his face. You can see it in his face, and I didn't really do a good job of capturing it, I don't think. I mean, you can kind of see it here, right? But he establishes that like there's something really bad, and as he pulls back, you then get to see what exactly he's seeing. And so it makes you feel like you're kind of looking at it through your own eyes, which I thought was really great. But yeah, I mean, it looks like they torch this place. Like it's done. They even got the Bantha.
Yeah, the Bantha. They got the Chief. Unclear if they got two others that we care about.
Look at Riska's theory. I like that one.
Anakin came back from the dead.
Killed them all. So, okay. The Chief's dead.
Right.
But where do you land on Tuskid and she? Do you think they got away?
Oh boy. Actually,
You can be honest.
That was a question. Like when he's putting the staffs on the fire, the first one, that's not hers, is it?
No.
Okay. I didn't think it was, but I couldn't tell if he had what she was holding earlier in the episode. But then again,
yeah.
So for her, maybe she was not there, and so she could possibly live. Now the kid, though, that's a little more interesting because why would he not have his stick? Because I think he's always gone everywhere with his stick.
Mm-hmm.
And so and the way that he puts it down reverently, to the fire. Now, granted, we don't see him put it in the fire, however, like he put the other ones.
Yeah, I've got a picture of that here because I caught that too. Like here he is holding that stick, right?
Right.
Then he bends down, but he's bending down like relative to where the fire is. Right? If you watch this scene closely, he's not putting it down in the fire. He like puts it right outside the fire. That's how it came across to me.
No, I took it the exact same way. While it was very reverent, it wasn't necessarily, burning it. So you could take it two ways. One, he might be alive. He didn't find the body because there was only a handful of bodies on this pyre, or two, it was very sentimental to him and he wanted to
couldn't burn it, couldn't bring himself to do it.
Maybe, or it was just kind of, laying it next to everybody. Yeah, I don't really know, but it's so in all likelihood, it seems like those two are going to be alive. But that was definitely Tiny Tim's crutch.
Jiminy Cricket's umbrella.
Right.
I took it the same way. Like I went through and I looked at the footage over and over again.
Footage.
You're
like an investigator now.
Yeah.
You're like trying to find Kennedy's assassination.
It's exactly right. It's the what is it? The it's not Sepulveda tapes. Anyway, it's a bad joke. And probably not appropriate. But I went through and looked at these images over and over again, and I can see where people were like, "Oh no, that." A lot of people were saying that's the kid up here on top,
Yeah,
right? This
yeah.
right here. It's not. It just doesn't. It's not the right size compared to like this other one. These are adults. They're the same size. So I don't think the kid's dead. Where his stick is at, in my head, I would like to think that she is still alive. I think
Right.
she's alive regardless, right? They would not have done that, gone through all of that. And I get they killed this, and this is part of his chapters of life is now kind of probably on. I'll concede that. However, I think she's still around, and I think we may see where he runs into her again and all that later on. But in my head, the way I would envision this is going, I think there's some theories out there about the kid being her child.
Okay.
And the chieftain was the father. I don't know. Maybe that sounds kind of cool, but we don't know for sure. Either way, there could be a likely scenario where they were outnumbered, outgunned, and they were just all kind of fleeing, right? Because it doesn't look like this was a 5 people that came in. This looks like it was a full-on army attacking.
Right.
And are these guys are they going to really make their last stand? We've already seen them. They'll pick up and run, and they probably just realize, okay, this is too much. So maybe she just grabs that kid, and the stick falls behind, and she gets off and gets away somehow. But everybody else that we see here were the people that didn't get away. And at that point, when they come in, they come in and burn everything down and tag everything like we see here, where they tag that one tent with the K on it.
So let me ask you, do you really
Yeah.
think this is the Krrsantan Striders?
Hmm.
I don't. I think it's probably the Pikes.
Ooh, I like that.
Because and one reason for that is that the Krrsantan Striders we haven't seen them with blasters. We've
Yeah.
seen them with the stun batons and the electric, whatever they are. But I don't think we've seen them with blasters or anything else. Now their speeder bikes may have had weapons on them. We didn't see that either. But
Yeah, I
we
would have
know
to go
we
back
know
and
the
look.
Pikes are heavily armored or heavily
Armed.
armed. There we go.
And they know where this village is because they take pop shots at it as
right. And that smug, what of a
Yeah.
leader there in Mos Eisley definitely, is slimy.
well, and if I was sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but this scene here, he's actually it wasn't a cane, he's holding a cup.
yeah,
But when he walks away, that little look on his face, and he's kind of like swirling it around, like kind of thing.
exactly. I mean, he was doing
like
it when
that,
he came
yeah.
in. Yeah, it was very casual, for all of this. And so I think the Pikes are probably putting them against each other and hoping that they'll wipe one another out. Because
I'm with you.
again,
I like that theory.
Yeah.
It makes it much more complex and much more shady.
well,
and I can
it
definitely see him
parallels
doing it.
the current, right? So in the current situation we've got where they, they're trying to, create infighting. The best way to take care of your enemies is to turn them against each other and you just sit back.
Yeah.
That's what the Hutts have always done, right? They've usually instigated a lot of stuff and then backed off and let everybody fight it, and they kind of collect up on the rest of it. Yeah, they don't necessarily have to get their hands dirty all the time. They always have somebody else around there. So there's definitely some parallel stuff going on here.
Yeah, and letter 71 said Pikes all the way. That's what will drive Boba for vengeance in the current state. And that's so going back to what I said earlier when we first started the show was kind of talking about a theory. By the way, like this scene here where they're just kind of holding on to Tamara Morrison's expression and
Yeah, this was good.
the emotion.
This is the lighting and everything else. It's just
Yeah, it was
fantastic.
perfect. It was awesome. But this for me was like, okay, this was a clear signal. Again, headcanon, headspace, whatever. It was a clear signal for me that the question of what does Boba want? Why would he suddenly go from a bounty hunter to he's a changed man, but he of all things, right? He doesn't choose to go live a noble life, right? He didn't choose to go just hang out with the sand people for the next, for however long and kind of hang up the helmet, if you will. No, he goes out and he's going out for vengeance. Like this is revenge now. And if he knows that it was in more than just the Krrsantans, or if it was the Pikes or Crimson Dawn, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, right? If he knows there's a larger organization out there that's behind all of this, right? Pulling the strings, responsible for this. It's almost like we talk, and going back to the comic book references, we call this the Punisher scene, right? He comes back, his family's been killed. It's like some big crime organization. And then the Punisher, yeah, he kind of does it on his own, right? But if you're Boba Fett, you've got a bantha, you've got a gaffy stick and a rifle. you're not going to be able to go up against, this big crime organization that's responsible for all of this. And you're going to need your armor back, right? You're going to need a ship. You're going to need some kind of an army of some sort. But for me, when I think, okay, so what's the best way? What's the easiest way for him to manifest power, get to a level of power enough to kind of go against this larger criminal organization? It's to kind of grow his own, right? He's not going to go join forces with the Rebel Alliance or the New Republic at this point, or any of the Empire's gone, right? So
Right.
he's got to do his own thing, and he knows that Jabba had people and power, and he's, in my head, he's doing all of this so that he can get to a level of power and exact revengeance on whoever it was that was behind all this, which I don't think he knows yet in this scene. Like he suspects it's the Kintans, but I think he's going to discover, and I think we're going to find out over the next 4 episodes, that there's more at play here, a larger organization at play, and that's what's putting him in this weird position of, oh yeah, I'm going to be a crime lord now. And I don't know that his whole heart is really in staying as a crime lord. I think this is just a means to an end to get revenge for what they did to his family and this new life that he had just started here.
Yeah, but so the hole I see in that is that he's not doing anything. He's not organizing anything. So if he's really out trying to learn, who did something, or build an army, or some sort of coalition in order to go back and do this, we don't see him doing any of it. We only see him reacting to smaller situations and really kind of a lack of direction. And I'll be honest, if it turns out to be something like that, then we've been pretty lazy so far, like with the storytelling, right? It's just to an extent it does, and the Fennec is so confused maybe, but I think it's just I don't know. There's something disconnected with all of this, and if it happens to be that way, and I have a feeling you're probably not wrong on a lot of that, but it just feels like there would be such a disconnect with what we've seen so far, because he really hasn't seemed interested at all in actually doing anything except sit on the throne and collect. He's not out there exploring or getting more information or anything like that. And maybe he's got everything he needs and he's accruing wealth and things like that, perhaps. But Boba's not one to just sit on his laurels and do nothing. And
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, and Ash is saying he's slowly building up his army. No, he doesn't have any allies. He's not made a single ally except these kids. And that's the thing so far, is that he's just not. I don't see him actively doing anything, and unless I'm missing an ally. We don't know if the Tuscans are around, and those were kind of already there anyway. Aside from Fennec.
Yeah. The only thing, I think that's a valid point. I think maybe the only thing that would kind of help reinforce my theory is over the course of the next 4 episodes, if we get more flashbacks and somewhere in there, it's more complicated than that, right? He's just got, when we finally catch up with him in present day, he's done his duty to help Mando out, right? And now it's him and Fennec, and maybe it really is just that's the starting point, and it wasn't as easy as, okay, let me go, because he's got power, like he took it over, but like maybe that's the part, that's a problem. He's struggling with it. I don't know. Like this is what I had in my head. Oh, I'll just go and walk in and take over this, but it's way more complicated than that, and so it's going to take some time to kind of build that up. But it could still be an end goal. But I get what you're saying. I just don't know that we have enough yet to kind of talk about what exactly is that he learned, which is going to get into this again. I'm gonna get on another well, not now. We'll come back to it later. But with the whole inconsistencies with him in the back of the tank, not in the back of the tank, and
Mhm.
being weak and being strong and all that, I think that's going to play out as well here in the flashbacks coming up, because that just, especially in this episode, it stands out even more now. And I just really think there's going to be a backstory there that we just don't have yet. There's probably substance there that we're not aware of.
Yeah, I just everything we've seen so far seems like a response to the power vacuum and to the supplanting of it, and now a response to the Pikes showing up with an army or starting to build an army. Everything else is by accident. He hasn't actually been doing anything. Yeah, so sitting on the throne is already drawing out the Huts. The Pikes are showing up. I don't think it was drawing out the Huts. He didn't know the Huts had a claim as part of it. So I don't know that any of this is intentional. And it's certain. I think that's the issue I have. If it is intentional, we're given zero indication that this is all according to design. And Boba does not. And I think we've talked about this. Boba doesn't seem to have a plan at all. And so
No, I think that's fair. I don't think he
Right.
does. I think he said, I'll take over and I'll just figure it out as I go along. And
right. And that's why I don't know that he has an end goal. I don't know. Maybe he has an idea of an end goal, but for it to be vengeance, I think specifically is kind of where I'm going on. Vengeance or revenge. It seems like that's not an intent because he didn't know the Pikes were really around until just recently.
Hmm.
Again, and I don't know where they've been for 5 years, but at least in the current present day, I don't think we've seen any Pikes since then. I think we had one reference just recently with 88.
Rob said, I just need him to win one fight in one of these episodes.
That's fair. That is fair.
It is fair. He's just been getting his butt kicked all left. I think that's coming though. Don't worry. I think when we get to the final 2 episodes, if not the finale itself, I think we're going to see the Boba Fett we saw in that episode of The Mandalorian come to life. So, but we'll see. Okay, so this is how he's woken up. I mean, can you imagine waking up to this face here?
That would be the worst holiday special ever.
Yeah. So there's Black K in all his glory, shows up. And yeah, I know. I get him. Like, again, security just lacks everywhere in Star Wars.
Yeah, how does it 50,000 foot Ewok Wookiee like sneak into this place?
Yeah. I don't know.
He's not.
I mean,
he's not.
It's
one
not like he's
known
got a
for-
full. Well, go ahead.
No, yeah, it's not like he's known for his stealth. We've got plenty of evidence for that. So yeah,
True. And I don't know that. I mean, Boba, or he does. It doesn't sound like he's running a skeleton crew, although he seems to have a lot of cooks or a lot of droids that cook really well.
right.
But it doesn't seem like he probably has the best level security. And there's holes in this too. Like, where was Fennec at?
Yeah.
I
mean,
she
a
seems
lock
like she
on a
would be
door.
sleeping with one eye open all the time,
Yeah,
right?
seems a lock on a door would probably be great too.
Yeah. And you could argue, why did he even let him out of the chamber? Like, he could have just, opened it and stabbed him with something that had been the end of it, right? But no, he decided to bring him out and,
Right.
beat him to a pulp. But nonetheless, I thought it was a good scene. I like the, again, like his crack's not out, which is pretty impressive. Those, wherever he got these underwear, I need to get them. But yeah, he's getting tossed around like a rag doll here, which I thought was really cool. There was a lot of great shots of Krrsantan just screaming the entire time.
Right.
But what do you think of the fight overall? I know you mentioned there was some. Is it like the suspension of disbelief in that you got to like just put aside that these are kids that eventually kind of corner him and all that, or
Yeah. Well. Yes.
and I'm gonna just flip through some of these shots.
Yeah. Yes, to an extent. I liked the fight overall. I liked seeing the strength of Black Krrsantan and just what he could do. And again, Boba trying to be resourceful and really kind of standing up to him a bit. I mean, granted, Black K is at such a huge advantage. Like Boba was in a back tank in his in his underoos, completely unaware and unexpected, taking a nice nap and having some dreams about, his loved ones dying. It was great.
Right.
And then he's woken up out of nowhere and then he's attacked by this giant, black Wookiee. It's gonna, as he did as well as he could given the circumstances. And I liked that he did at least put up a fight. Now, yeah, how do you take a electrified brass knuckle to the face and be okay? That's not really, that's disbelief.
Yeah, no, I would agree too. Like, this is a cool shot here. I didn't
Nice job on
capture
that one. Yeah.
But yeah, he gets the crap beat out of him. And when it's all said and done, he comes out at the very end. I've got a picture of it. He comes out in his robe like he just came out of the spa over at Woodstone Spa, and walks out like no big deal.
Yeah.
But you would think with this hit right here alone would have put some kind of a scar on his face.
I know, right? He was just in there for a soak in his steam and came out and man, the gentleman's soak was all he needed to be recovered. But again, this is in the case of the Mando effect. There's just no injuries whatsoever. But again, I like the fight overall. I thought it was pretty good, and I don't really have a problem with the kids saving the day. To be honest with you, it was a little heavy-handed how they did it. The slow walk up. It was very, traditional, movie making style where you're trailing behind someone to the just off to the right. Oh yeah, and this is where we get the first of the rabies infections. Great,
allegedly, but we never saw blood on him.
True.
You were talking about earlier during this scene here where he's got him in this bear hug.
Yeah.
And if you put the subtitles on, it says bones crackle.
Yep.
It says that.
Yep.
And I thought, oh my gosh, like he's crushing his spine. Is he going to be like paralyzed or, and no, he's fine. He's okay. Maybe it's the fact that he just came off a hot back to bath and he's regenerated, or
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Again, it's the whole how is he upright? I mean, and with the toe like that, something's wrong.
Lauren says the kids are our future.
They
They
are.
are our future.
Yeah.
Teach them well. Let them lead the way. Show them the beauty they possess inside. Here's
Yeah.
that was Whitney Houston.
Dash saving the day.
Yeah, this is Dash pulling out her little shiv, or shivving him on the side there.
Her switchblade. Yeah.
Switchblade. And it was cool. I mean, they all had their different weapons. You got, her with a little knife. You got this dude over here with the
Like
the chain.
Yeah, the chain whip, electrified chain whip was pretty neat.
Right there.
Yeah, that was pretty dope. I like that one.
Like that one. This dude had a blaster pistol that shot purple bolts, which I had never seen before. Did you catch that?
No,
I think I got a picture of it too. Yeah, look.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I noticed they were something different. I couldn't quite tell what color they were.
Yeah, purple. I don't know. I never seen that before. But and then this one I felt sorry for. Like, she's got like some little mini baby Thor hammer thing going on here with
I thought it was like just a weird branding iron or something.
That's what maybe that's what it is. It looks like it's just a tool. Which you wouldn't expect these kids to be coming out with, heavy arms. Maybe they did. Maybe they should have. Maybe Boba should have brought them back and said, okay, you're part of my team now. Let's get you armed up and get you weaponized. But
right.
It looks like maybe this is all he had. He's like, oh yeah, cool. I got a chain whip. I got a blaster. I got a knife. And here's the hammer that I use for my rock collection. Anyways, they're, and there she is right there coming at it with Mjolnir. I like this tackle that he does too, where he goes and tackles. What did I call them? Bebop and Rocksteady.
Right. I just like the size compared to them. I mean, he's just massive.
He is. He's huge. There's a good picture of them a little bit later on when he's getting freed that he shows them on here. So, and then I know these are kind of again really dark, but eventually they kind of corner him or surround him on the platform that goes down into the Rancor pit. I thought this was good too, like eating bacon there. He's sitting there chomping on the Gamorrean's neck, which they get that guy in the back to tank a little bit later. She hits the switches. He goes down, but not without trying to stay out there, which I thought was cool. And then we got this shot finally that we saw in the trailer that we kept questioning, like, what is she doing here? Where she pulls that little blade out of the stock on the rifle.
She kind of saves his life because presumably, Cyclops there was going to pull the trigger at point blank.
No, that's true.
Oh, here we go.
And there he is.
The daimyo in his robo.
What's going on, guys? I heard a noise.
Yeah. You disturbed my sauna. This is not Mystery Science Theater.
Right. Okay, so they got him trapped down there, which was cool, I guess. And then we get to the big meal here. This was a scene where I felt like, as much as the food was a distraction, because there's too much of it. Right. I did like the fact that we did get that flavor, and not just to kind of bring it up again, but it did seem like he was really, there were moments there where he's just kind of staring off into space. He's not even looking at Fennec. He's just kind of staring off into space like, what the hell am I supposed to do here? He even says, like, he knows I've got to do something. I've got to send a message. This is getting out of hand, right? I'm getting my butt kicked all over the city. No one respects me. I've got these punk kids that were making fun of me now. And you're right. He has not really done much of anything. And I don't think he's handling this very well, which I think is okay. He was always, there's a misconception about Boba Fett too, right? And I don't want to get into this because we could probably do a whole show on this, but the misconception is that Boba Fett was some kind of lethal, brutal killer that did not have a conscience. And yes, he was all he was really known for was always getting his mark, right? Wasn't that his tagline?
Yeah.
Boba Fett, the guy that always gets his mark, man. Always,
Yeah. And he would, if you got in his way, then there were consequences to it.
Right. But he wasn't like this chaotic, evil Sith Lord character that was out there just killing people.
It was just about the
left
job.
And right.
Yep.
It was about the job. So where I was going with that is when he's sitting here and looking at it or thinking about what to do, like he definitely feels like he's out of his element. Like I have no idea what to do next. I mean, he knows I guess he knows what he needs to do, but he doesn't know how to do it. Like how do I send a message and how do I get through to all these different groups that are much larger than me? And it feels like this is starting to come in on around him, right? And I think that's where we get to the very end. It's like, okay, there's a war coming, and he's in the middle of it all because he's trying to establish himself as the new daimyo.
Yeah, and Fennec's just kind of living life up. She's super happy, big old turkey leg, smile on her face.
Yeah, she's kicking back at one point,
Yeah,
legs up on the table.
yeah. I mean, this is the trappings. These are the spoils, right? This is what you when you run your crime lord. This is what you achieved, and this is where you're supposed to be happiest. And again, I think that lends credibility to what's Boba's true. It's not the wealth and some of this stuff, but what truly is it aside from feeling backed into a corner? What does get him motivated and excited? And some of it's the thrill of the chase and the thrill of the hunt. And maybe we're finally going to see that part of Boba Fett come back.
This is the moment too where Fennec was like, "Hey, you need to just wait. Like, you wait it out. Wait for the Hutts to kind of make the next move."
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, I can't wait. The Hutts they'll do something else by the time I get around to all of that." And then it's kind of right on cue. They
Right.
just suddenly happen to show up at the door.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he doesn't have to do anything because they kind of did it for him. And that's the thing. Like, he's not really doing anything except trying to make an appointment for them with the mayor. I mean, that's about the only action they've taken most of the time is trying to go meet the mayor, which has not
Yeah.
gone well.
Yeah. Stop trying to meet. that guy.
Stop trying to meet with the mayor. And why do you ring the doorbell and ask for an appointment and then not just walk in anyway?
Yeah. And so again, a lot of that though, and I get what you're saying. It doesn't seem right. Like it's just him deciding I don't want to conform to the way things are supposed to be done. I'm going to try to assert myself as this is how things are going to be different and bring it back to the real world.
Despite the multiple attempts on his life.
Oh yeah, but
Right.
that we can put that aside. That he's lived a whole life like that, right?
Right.
But you think about like real world times, and somebody just said it right now in the chat. He said he's the bad manager we've all had that got hired, and they don't have no idea how to do their job. And to some extent, that's kind of true. Like he's sitting here trying to establish himself and tell these folks that, hey, you need to get behind me and support me because we're the new people in charge. But at the same time, they've got to be looking at him going like, but why?
Right.
All I see you doing is getting tossed around. No one respects you. You're not doing anything the way you're supposed to do. And I think at the center of all of that is Fennec. Like she seems like she is getting. I don't think she's going to break away or anything like that, but she does seem like she's visibly, frustrated with he's not doing the things that he should be doing. And I know we're rehashing stuff because I know you brought this up a little bit earlier as well. But all right, what did you think of the CGI? So the twins show up. Any better for you this time?
No, same
crap.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, okay-ish. It was okay, not bad, but okay.
So they do show up. That's the mole.
Yeah.
And he says, we have come to apologize. Like, I didn't buy anything these guys are saying.
Right. 5 minutes after we've sent an assassin, hey, we want to come by and say, hey,
Let's say
no
sorry.
hard feelings, right?
No hard feelings. Yep.
Our bad.
And the way they explain that is, look, we were duped. Like we were told, or what was it? What was he said? He said that I have the line in here somewhere.
Yeah, the land was already promised to another syndicate. Since when did the Hutts care? I mean, they didn't care that they had a problem with Boba Fett coming and sitting his butt on the throne. But why would they? I'm with you. There's something that does not work here. And why would they call him the spineless Mokshais and Mayor McCheese?
Mm-hmm.
Why would they say he's spineless, but he promised it to someone else and that overrides your contract that you were, flaunting in the middle of the square in front of everybody to make a point threatening Boba Fett? So yeah, there's something that just does not add up. And they're both giving him advice all of a sudden to just drop it. You're chasing something you don't want any part of this.
Yeah, they tell him that he needs to leave Tatooine. That
it's a worthless rock. Yeah,
it's a worthless rock. Yeah, and
hard to argue that point.
We've said it. I don't know how many times. Like, why do we keep coming back to Tatooine? Like, who wants to live here?
Right? Who wants to rule it?
Did they canonize some Force thing with Tatooine not that long ago, around the Force Awakens or Rise of Skywalker? Do you remember that?
I don't know. That's still 20 years away.
No. It's true, but no, that's all right. I won't get into that. But I'm trying to value Tatooine, and it's hard sometimes. But so he says, look, somebody promised another syndicate has already made claim to this, and we were lied to, and that's the only reason we're leaving is because we were lied to. And so, hey, sorry about everything that happened. you know what? We brought you a gift. Later on, they go ahead and give him Krrsantan to kind of do whatever they want with him at that point.
Right.
But it just seems all kind of like on the surface. And, you think about the deception already at this point. I think these guys are deceiving him. I think the mayor is definitely deceiving him. I don't think the Pikes are being honest as well. So I don't know.
Right.
It's really hard. Like, I do like the fact that I don't know who to trust. And I think that's the point of it. I don't think you can trust any of these jokers, right? They're all lying.
And we haven't even really introduced the Trandoshans yet. And we know they're coming. So,
True.
And we know Boba doesn't get along super well with Trandoshans most of the time. I mean, he's worked with them before, but not always the smoothest of transactions.
So yeah, they mentioned that, hey, we sent Krrsantan to kill you. No hard feelings, and then they bring the gift. And to be clear,
and the gift was Machete.
Yeah, the gift is Machete. Forget the Rancor. The Rancor was just a bonus. It was really Danny Trejo. He was the true gift that was brought to him.
Yeah, look at him riding in. One hand on the accelerator, one hand on to his side, looking all regal and stuff.
Yep. I started thinking Moochie. It did look smaller. I was like, wait a minute, why is it so small?
And that's
I know they confirmed that later on.
Yeah, it's been about 20 years since Moochie, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how fast Rancors grow.
I guess it depends on how much milk they drink. And then he says, we're going to go back to now Hutt. So yeah, they turn and leave, allegedly. Whether or not they do, I'm sure we'll find out here at some point. And we'll talk more about the Rancor in a little bit here, but this is the scene next where he's telling them they're going to go ahead and turn Krrsantan over to him. And he says, sell the Wookiee, or she says, sell the Wookiee back to the gladiators.
Yeah.
I forgot to tell you, here's the ugly moment that I had too. Watch this scene again. This dude takes that little mousy creature,
throws it away,
lifts it. No, he lifts up his fat roll, his chub roll, and he wipes the sweat that's accumulating underneath his chub roll, and then he pitches it off to the side.
Oh my God. I need to go get a screenshot.
Go watch it again.
It's going to be my new avatar.
Yep. It's disgusting.
Sounds wonderful.
I mean, we've all been there, right?
We've all...
At least I have. Here's the, so he says, sell the Wookiee back to the gladiator. And then Boba Fett makes a decision about, like, I love that. Like, we need more Black K time,
right?
Honestly.
He's like, huh?
Or he's not trying to kill him, right? I want him to talk. I want to see what he says and, all that. We want to get in his head. We haven't had anything other than him just growl and stuff. But I mean, the facial expressions, I always thought they did a really good job with Chewie, but these are like really good here too.
Yeah. I mean, that creature looks menacing all the time. Yeah. Yep. But I mean, Black K he's not much of a talker anyway. In the comics, I don't think he really ever had a conversation. I tell you what, one of the uglies I almost had was him running off.
Okay. So
and that we needed 3 different angles of him running off. I mean, him running is great. It's fine. The first angle would have been fine, but I didn't know that we needed the 2 wide shots.
It was this angle where I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand what people are saying. It does look awkward that the way he runs off. And the only thing I would say is if you've ever watched an NBA game and you've watched the big 7-footers, the centers running up and down the court, they're awkward. Because they're so tall. They have an awkward gait. So I don't know what people were expecting him to look like when he ran off. He's not going to look like, somebody like me that's 6 feet tall. Running off, right? He's going to look a little different. He's going to look a little awkward. And I guess it was true. I mean, it was exposed. Plus, he's in a costume and all that. So I get it. It was a little awkward, but
it was more the shot than the actual running. I don't really blame the actor for any of this stuff. It's more the shot. We didn't need 3 shots. Everybody looking at him run off.
Right. Yeah.
Awkward.
It was. Okay. So I know you, we talked about, Rob says, just walk.
I know,
that's
right?
true. He could have just walked off. He didn't have to run off, but
stride.
Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he was worried that it was going to be one of these, like, yeah, sure, go ahead and take off. We'll let you go. And then, after he gets 20 yards out, he pulls out a rifle and Fennec snipes him. He was probably maybe worried about that. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. I wonder if he wanted his gun back. Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. So Fennec coming back. I'm sorry, Fennec. Black K coming back. I think it was likely. I said it in the last episode that I really wanted him to come back, and I wanted them to be. I want him to be with Boba Fett. Or was in the first episode, I think, or whatever it was. I said I want him to come back. I want him to ally with him. I didn't know how he got there.
Yeah.
To me, this is a perfect door now.
Yep.
But I used a word that was probably too strong, and I apologize. But I used the word life debt when this happened.
Yeah,
And you
said
made a
that
good
to me, and
point.
I was like, "That's not."
Yeah, he was like, he said, "You're stupid. I can't believe you just said
I
that."
did not.
No, he didn't say that. He said, "You're an idiot. I can't believe you just said that." It's not a life debt. And I mean, he's a Wookiee, right? So he did grow up and he probably understands the meaning of a life debt. But you're right. Black K, probably not his MO, right? It's probably not something that he would even entertain. I don't think it's part of his culture or who he is, right? It's just not who he is. But at the same time, he may honor that to some extent.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
well, I think that was my point, was that he doesn't really adhere to the lifestyle and the principles of what we would consider
Wookiee
the
culture.
Wookiee culture, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't see him aligning with any of that. He's been so disconnected from it. He grew up as a gladiator, effectively, this very rugged lifestyle. Now he probably has an appreciation, but when I think life debt, I think pledging yourself to someone like Fennec has, or like Chewbacca and Han Solo, right? And so I don't know that I see him becoming Boba's, muscle all the time, and he's hired and he's there. But
True. I mean, if it was a true life debt, he would not have run off. He would have said, "Look,
he would have fallen to
can't
his
go."
knees and just,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
that's not true of the character either, though. I mean, that's not who Black Krrsantan is. This Wookiee, at the end of the day, has wanted things like freedom and to stop feeling and stop being so oppressed and repressed over, just because he's a giant, super gorilla Wookiee.
With
Yeah,
an awkward gait.
with an awkward gait. Yeah, but I just don't see him wanting to pledge himself to anyone while he might, help someone. I mean, we've seen him work with others. I mean, he worked with Afra, for a bit too. So
Yeah. Well, and that's true. We haven't really seen, well, we talked about just now, we haven't really seen him interact outside of just trying to kill people and look menacing. He hasn't really done much. So we don't have we don't get that sense. But I think this was enough at least to open the door of, okay, we know at the very end he's trying to put together a team, right? And putting together a team and for a war, or he's putting together an army really at this point, if we think about it that way. So he's going to need everybody he can get. And this seems like a pretty easy opportunity to go and say, look, I spared your life. I could have killed you. We've done some jobs together. We've worked together. I could use you on my side. I mean, he's on Tatooine. I don't know. Maybe he says, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do it if you pay me enough. But
I'm on Tatooine. You're on Tatooine. We can't get off this planet. I got a
yeah,
Rancor now. Things are looking
yep,
up.
things are looking good. Come on over. Okay, so and then he makes that comment about, hey, no hard feelings. It's only business. I did like the fact that he said, take it from an ex bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Right. That was kind of cool. Like he's definitely moved past that. He's not, at least right now, it doesn't look like he's going back to bounty hunting. So again, more character development, more signaling that this is now a new version, a new person in a different role.
At the very least, he wants to be different, or wants something different. Yeah.
Want something different. Yeah. Okay. So what are we at? Let's talk about the Rancors. I didn't get a whole lot of pictures here because it was so dark. But
Well, you got like 5 of Machete.
yeah. Well, there was more. I deleted all of them.
So what'd you think of Boba's interaction with the Rancor? And then I want to get your take on what some of the what we learned about Rancors a little bit. Some of it we kind of already knew, but we do get a little bit of insight on Rancors. How did you kind of feel about that whole thing and Boba's interaction with it?
Either it felt a little, I don't know. I guess I was going to say it felt a little naive. Like I would never, like even if somebody brought a Rancor in and said, oh, it's just a calf and he can't see and he's right here, I wouldn't be this close and I wouldn't go up to him and like scratch the side of him and all that. But I mean, he was, he is like the pit bull, right, of Star Wars, and we get the sense of that they were breeding these things for gladiatorial contests or pit fighting or whatever it is that they were doing, and so they've got this mean streak in them. But it was it was a little different there in terms of like where they are in the galaxy, like how people treat them, what their purpose is. We had that already from Dathomir, and especially some of the comics. We've seen that.
Right.
We kind of knew a little bit about them and the different variations of color that were in the comic books. There's like 3 or 4 of them. But yeah, it was a different take. And I think it's very eye-opening and very different. Again, for anybody that has only seen the movies, you're like, what the heck's going on? This is like that menacing creature that almost killed Luke, and you've now made this thing into a very emotional, loving, it's been treated horribly and all that. I've seen it. People are really having a hard time reconcile that, but it's really not that far away for anybody that's read the comic books, and especially not anybody that's followed like Moochie, right? I mean,
Right.
Omega rides on Moochie, and you learn that they're in that fight when Moochie's fighting Wrecker. There was he had to kind of win his respect, I guess, or I can't remember how that all went down, but eventually they got into this little battle, this fist fight. And at that point, it was kind of like, cool. Like, it was all right, whatever. I'll go with you guys, and sure, throw the kid on my back. That's totally fine. But
Right.
again, that was already different. They already kind of started putting that out there, that Rancors were not what we expected them to be in Return of the Jedi. I don't know if I answered your question. I probably just went on about a bunch of crap, but go ahead.
No, I mean, and this is how this is like real life, right? Not every animal is vicious by nature. They have vicious streaks. They get defensive. If there's a reason to attack, or if they're guarding their territory, but they don't go out there just trying to rip everything to shreds, right? And I think that's the idea behind this here, is that I don't think Boba probably had some level of comfort with him here as well, with Danny Trejo's character here, that he knew so much about the Rancor. Clearly, it meant a lot. When he talked about the blinders kind of made a lot of sense then as well. And that was something we didn't see with Moochie. So I'm assuming Moochie was probably imprinted on Bib Fortuna or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I did like some of that backstory though, and the Witches of Dathomir was fantastic. Reference and pulling that out of nowhere. And I think I like the idea of this explaining why there was such a relationship in Return of the Jedi with the Rancor and then with its keeper, right? And that there was something else. Now, granted, with Jabba's situation, he wasn't above probably starving and torturing it from time to time in order to make sure that it provided great entertainment. And when a
Yeah.
Rancor is also used to saying, okay, that's my supper, and something is dropped down in there, yeah, why wouldn't they go down there and start attacking it? So, but I liked it overall. I actually enjoyed this, and again, it makes sense from a character, or from a potentially a Mandalorian aspect too, from a history, because Mandalorians have a connection with animals. They have an ability to have a connection with animals, and we've seen Boba already a couple of times with the Massive, as well as with the banthas. Now, like he cares for animals or has a connection with them. And we learn a little bit that he's ridden animals 10 times the size, which is an interesting comment of where when that happened. What was that beast? Was it a dragon that Elzar Mann rode hundreds of years earlier, or was it something else? Doesn't seem like
Yeah.
mythosaurs are really a thing still, but
They're
what
supposed
was
to,
that?
yeah, mythosaurs are supposed to be extinct. So anybody, yeah. So anyone that remembers the holiday special, our first introduction to Boba Fett, he was riding this dinosaur-looking thing, right? So I don't know if he's talking about that. This came up in the Discord chat this week when we were talking about it.
Yeah.
And I'd mentioned that the mythosaur, which is Boba Fett's logo, and what we for a very long time thought kind of associated with just Mandalorians in general, was that logo, the signet, right? Was that
Right.
skull-looking thing? That's a mythosaur. They were these big creatures that lived on Mandalore itself, and as far as I know, they're supposed to be extinct.
Yeah.
But again, going back to my headcanon Mandalorian, like if they ever get to Mandalore, I kind of want to see them like finding those and riding them, and really just take. I hope Favreau takes all that back to the original like way of Mandalore before they got really kind of a lot of the feudal fighting that was going on.
It was a great nod to the holiday special though as well. It wasn't lost on me either. I thought that was a really nice little nod.
Oh crap! I've not been keeping up with the chat. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, I just said that too. It was in the holiday special. There you go. One thing about I don't want to come back to another topic about whether or not this is a Trojan horse, but I do want to just kind of this may be another crazy whack theory, or I wouldn't say whack theory, but just a observation that I have that may or may not be right. But Boba seems to be very empathetic towards the Rancor. And a part of me thinks that some of that is like he kind of sees himself as the Rancor, right? You've got a calf. You think about Rancors in general, right? When they're born and they're bred to be like these warriors, and they're not. They were never really like that. They shouldn't have to be like that, but at a young age, they probably are. And so when he goes over here and he's touching it, I wonder if at some point he's looking at this thing and going, there's self-reflection going on here. Like I should have been able to be just a kid, but my dad was a assassin or bounty hunter or whatever he was, right? And he got to witness some of these atrocities that were being carried out by his father. He probably saw some of the shady people that was hanging out. We know now from the Bad Batch that the Kaminoans are not really the nicest people. They've got their, dubious things that they do as well. So yeah, tin hat time. Here we go. So when he's looking at this, I'm wondering if he's thinking, okay, here's something that, I don't want this thing to become like me. And I'm not saying he's like a rancor, not literally, but somebody that was born and kind of lived in the shadow of his father and born and bred and had all that angst that we talked about that we saw in the Clone Wars and some of the problems that he had a little bit later that kind of led up to who he was in Return of the Jedi. So it's almost like a way for him to kind of make sure that this young boy, because it is a male, I think they confirmed that in this episode, but this young boy doesn't turn into like what he became, which was this, horrible person.
Well, and what shifted though is when Boba learns that the Rancors are capable of very complex emotions, that it's depressed. I wasn't super. I had a lot of conflicting emotions about the Rancor being depressed, and they just kind of left that one out there. But it was interesting though that that's what Boba gravitated to, that because they're capable of something so complex, he automatically had. I think, and this is somewhat to your point, there's more to a person, to a creature than what you see on the surface, because they're this big brute, some might call ugly thing, doesn't mean that that's everything that you are.
Right.
And again, to your point, I think that's, Boba in a sense of somehow potentially remaking himself, or at least that journey of where he's been to where he's, moving now.
Okay, let's talk about the Trojan horse theory.
Yeah.
Because I can see it. I'm not I guess opposed to it. I would question why though, right? If you think about here, and this is where I'll challenge whoever I know there's some people in the chat talking about it. Where I would challenge that is we've got enough. Boba Fett has enough against him already at this point, right? He's got all these people that hate him. He's not got any wins whatsoever. And what I said in Discord this week too is this is Jon Favreau playing with his Kenner toys back in 1983. And you all are just witness to it, right? We're seeing Jon Favreau get to play with his toys. And if I'm Jon Favreau and I'm that kid at 10 years old, you sure better bet that I'm going to stick Boba Fett on a Rancor and I'm going to march that sucker in and have him just destroy stuff. Like how boyish, and I'm using air quotes because it's not necessarily just boys, but I'm talking about me personally. Yeah. That is like the ultimate kid thing to do. Like that Rancor, when you're playing with your toys, having somebody ride that thing and because there's and they're signaling it, right? I mean, he even says, you can ride it. Why would they go through the trouble of explaining all that and showing the connection just to yank that away from you? And based on what I've seen with Favreau and some of the other, I'm going to call it Kenner toy things that he's done in the other shows, The Mandalorian especially, I can't see. This is like a perfect opportunity for him for us to visually see this on screen. And we've already got a precedent set when Avar Kriss is riding him, and we talked about the Dathomir witches. And so to that end, I don't know that it's a Trojan horse, but I definitely see where, okay, you've just gotten a gift from the Hutts, which we just said you don't trust. Maybe Machete is the one that's going to backstab him at some point, and maybe that could still happen, right? They don't have to be mutually exclusive. Maybe he does backstab him, but at the same time, now that Rancor is imprinted, that's a bond, and we don't have to worry about that being broken. But maybe Machete is still a Trojan horse. But what do you think? Do you like the theory at all?
I thought about it, and the way that the character is acting, though, seems like he has a genuine connection with the Rancor, and then is also genuinely interested in Boba having a relationship with the Rancor, and it seems relatively genuine. Now, granted, we just met the character; we don't really know much about him at all, but at least the way that the acting was portrayed, it certainly looks like it's genuine. And I mean, there were a couple of things that came to mind. Like one, is the Rancor going to be any faster than a Bantha? And that might be reason enough for Boba to want to upgrade.
Oh, no, they do. They move fast.
Yeah. But I mean,
because in the comic,
he's walking everywhere, or he rode a Bantha, which is slower than walking.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems like he's definitely needed to upgrade his transportation.
Yeah.
And what better way to do that than with a Rancor? But yeah, I don't I thought more about like what the Hutt's angle might be, and if the Hutt's really were, if the angle really was, hey, we attacked you and we shouldn't have because we didn't know this other piece of information, and that's bad business. Here's a gift. I can see that on the surface. That's it. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And I think I'm choosing to view it as just that because again, I think a bit to your point, how many things are we going to throw all at once, and how these shows aren't that complex, right? They're just not. They to where they start throwing every single.
Right. They pile on that much onto these characters. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
we haven't seen that, right? Usually it's been a single, a single type of thing, or maybe two, but one's more indirect. What we saw Mandalorian, but it doesn't seem to be the operation or the way that these shows operate. And so I wouldn't expect to have much more than that. But again, I like the idea of the Rancor in general. I mean, can you imagine
um
riding that thing like in a Mos Eisley or Mos Espa?
yeah.
I mean,
Talk about forget a litter. I'm riding a
yeah,
Rancor,
that's
you
right.
danks.
That's right.
Did I do that right? I
That's
don't know.
right. I'm gonna dank Ferrick all you guys.
I'm a
Did I
bunch
use
of
that right?
danks up in here.
I think so.
Maybe. I'm gonna go to the comments real quick because these are nice and fun. I meant there's a literal enemy inside its stomach. So
That's why it's the
Alex
best.
thinks there's a real person in or something inside as a Trojan horse. You're dumb. Let's see. As a boy, look at Tuan. As a boy, I stuck firecrackers and everything and blew them up. So I think Tuan's saying I don't really care.
That's what we did with our GI Joes, not with our Star Wars.
Yeah. Josh says Chekhov's gun, which is a common thing that happens in movies and TV, but they mention him writing one, it will happen, and that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think they would. I don't think they were doing anything more than just signaling that that's going to happen. So, and then next comment says, think about how Boba would look leading the attack of his A team on the Pikes. So, yeah, that's kind of. I mean, I'm envisioning him writing this thing. Well, we'll get to that. We'll come back to that because we got to get to this. We're coming up on 2 hours, which I didn't think we would spend this much time on, but I'm glad everybody's still sticking around.
Wait till we
Wow.
get to the Rancor mating culture.
Yeah, I know. There must really be nothing on television tonight because a lot of you are still here. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so let's move on. So yeah, they go back and forth. We get the imprint going on here. I
Yeah.
loved its eyes, by the way. Some pretty good CGI stuff there. There's the imprint, hazy effect. And I guess so. What do you think about this? Just quickly on the imprint. Do you think there's some kind of like a physiological bond now with Boba Fett, or is it just kind of like is it kind of like a what is it? The chickens do this,
Yeah,
and
chickens and ducks.
birds, right?
Ducks, yeah.
Ducks, yeah. They see the very first thing they see.
Yeah, it's mama.
They tend to.
Right.
That's mama. So they follow it around. Dog, cat, person.
Yeah,
whatever.
Imprinting is a real thing, and again, if the creature's been now, the one thing when you get to this age, though, is I guess the only hole that might be in that. And granted, the Rancor has heard this other voice constantly, which maybe that's why it's so calm still with Machete still in the room with it. But yeah, I mean, if it's still a thing even as a calf, then imprinting makes a lot of sense and is perfect. And I think that's the way that you have an initial bond, but they are going to, they've already started to bond in other ways as well. And I think the attention Boba is giving to it, and that he's already saying, "What are we going to call you? Like, what's your name going to be?" It was a very different side of Boba, actually. I think that some people
Yeah.
probably got a little turned off by that. That all of a sudden there was
Yes.
this loving,
yeah.
caring person, like
Furious
right,
and
but
fuego, as we say down here.
right, but again, if you think back, Attack of the Clones, like Django cared for his son very, very much, right?
Yep.
He definitely loved his son, and there's no reason why Boba is not capable of affection. And so it's a bit silly that people just want him to be a killing badass, and he can't have tender moments with the Rancor.
You know the best way to bond with somebody
I don't want to know the answer to this question.
is through a montage. We're gonna get a montage of them.
You beat me to it. We were going to get a Mando style learning to ride
Yep.
montage.
I can't wait.
That's
It's gonna
80s
be awesome.
music.
80s music.
Oh, and
Get
maybe
some
they'll bring
Survivor.
Maybe they'll bring that green fuzzy weird effect too, so it'll be very 80s.
Yeah, I get Survivor to do a little segment there, and let them just slash it up on the guitars there. Okay, I thought this was funny too. Like the way AD8 pokes his head around the butt of the Rancor
was
there
good.
to let him know.
Excuse me.
Yep. And what he's telling him here, so let's keep moving here. What he tells him is, hey, we're like 3 weeks out.
This
on
is where the
meeting
episode
with
should have
the
ended,
mayor.
by the way. It would have been fine.
Yeah. Here's the shot. And where did the other ones go? Like, if you look at when he first meets the
Yeah.
Spy Kids,
Like 6
there's
or
like
7 of them.
there's like 6 or 7 at least. And the other 3, it's funny because if you I watched it over and over again. These guys obviously jump on their mopeds. The other ones like all run into a building and we never see them again. Like they never show up. So I don't know where those people are, but whatever. Here's the he gets over here to Major Domo. I like the way he just shoves this Doobie Brother reject out of the way.
Right.
When he's trying to get to the data pad here. And he makes a run for it. This was a cool moment too, where she threatens his life. And even more interesting is when Boba turns to her and says, "That was a little heavy-handed, don't you think?" And like that, like how different is that, for that character to be like, I mean, she didn't do it, she just threatened to do it, but yet he still kind of maybe had a problem with it because again, it doesn't align with what he's trying to do and how he wants to lead.
Well, she knows that the Major Domo is just full of it. He's lying, and she's kind of just, her patience is done. Her tolerance for this crap is just over, and it's time to make progress. And again, why they're there making an appointment in the first place, it just is beyond me, because they didn't get a meeting, they didn't get a appointment or anything. They show up and they're turned away, and they're made fools of yet again. And I'm ready for this part to stop, where he's just had enough. Like, okay, we're done with this guy. No more. Let me go into the back, and then he locks the door. Kind of garbage.
I mean, he's just stonewalling right at this point. Right. Well, I mean, and to be fair, he, if we take him at face value or at his word, he says that the mayor. The way I read it was the mayor's like abandoned his position. Like he's no longer here. He's now with the Pikes and working for the Pikes. Did you take it that way?
Yeah, a bit. Protection from the Pikes, right?
Right.
So I don't think the Pikes need protection from really anybody. That was always the thing that didn't quite make sense, is that you have a high-speed train going through the middle of the desert with high-powered weapons and a very high speed. You are really not at risk of much of anything. So thank you, TJ, for staring at my hair.
He says, "I'm here to stand Chris's flowing hair." So there you go.
Yeah.
That's how beautiful it is tonight. You guys can't see it, but that's where we're at. We got the Dank Ferrick reference here, finally.
Yeah, we did.
I don't know why anybody thought we weren't going to get it.
Did she say dunk or dank? When I
don't know. I didn't listen.
Last time I listened to it, it almost sounded like she mispronounced it, but maybe I was just not paying attention.
Yeah.
And here we go with the chase scene.
Yeah, here we go. Chase scene.
Similar car to what
Solo?
In Solo, yeah.
So compare that chase scene to this chase scene. And I know that maybe not fair because that's a movie and I don't know if you want to say Ron Howard is a more experienced. I would say so. He's a more experienced director than
much more
Robert
seasoned.
Rodriguez.
Yeah.
But I felt like that one did a better job than this one did. But
did
again,
too,
that was they had some of the same similar moments. Like I don't know if I got it. Like this moment here, where there was somebody crossing the street. I think that was the same thing that was happening in the Solo chase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were a lot of similarities with it. But again, I think when you think about chase scenes in general, there's a lot of commonality with them all, right? They all have something where you zoom by and people, turn and look, or they, someone's trying to hurry across the road and jump out of the way, or they get stuck in traffic and they're getting turn around every way. So, yeah, I think it's pretty common. There was nothing really unique about this, but I did like Solo a little bit better. I thought it was a little bit better done chase scene.
Yep. There's and here's the colors, and like we talked about, if you're just catching up with us, we had talked about earlier about how likely
so his bike is probably a Subaru, because I think Subaru is the only one that makes that weird greenish yellow color.
Oh, stop it. You know too much about Subarus if you know that. These look like KitchenAid blenders to me.
They really do. They really do. They look like out of the 50s. Yeah.
Yeah, KitchenAid.
I mean, how many rearview mirrors does she need on hers? She's literally got 12.
I don't know. And so this goes back to the mods in London. When you go look at the pictures of the bikes, they had tons of mirrors on their bikes. Like
I remember. Yeah, it's just it's amusing.
It is.
But I like that they're all similar, but they all do have a unique style to them.
Sure. So again, okay. So not because we've been called shills before. the other thing that I have a problem with in this scene is like, where the heck are Fennec and Boba? Like, they seem to be complacent with the kids just run. I mean, they don't have a vehicle. I get it. But I mean, Fennec didn't have a vehicle in the chase scene when she was jumping around on air cars, right? During the Bad Batch. So we know she's capable of improvising.
Oh, and this other thing.
This dude's got a jetpack.
She's a sniper.
Yeah, she's a sniper, right? She could have just popped that guy.
She doesn't miss.
In the shoulder.
Or
so
pop the engine. Yeah, there's a lot of things.
Right.
Well, then she uses the get him, which was just ridiculous. Which was like, was that's like total out of Back to the Future type of moment.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the Future 2, I think.
Yeah. They're so again, I don't really care. Like, I this is fine. This is not what
him coming on the jetpack made a lot more sense. Like, let them do all the chasing and he shows up at the end. That makes sense. Maybe
he was trying to test them. Here we are. Now we're being apologists.
Right.
Okay, but here's but again, my biggest problem with the scene is just the pacing and the editing and
slow.
The lack of speed. It's just too slow.
Yeah.
Lack of excitement. But again, I mean, if it's made for kids and, then the colors stand out, check the box, and they slow it down so people can follow the action.
That guy wearing
check
a tie.
the box. And he's like the Doctor Who of this game.
Right.
Have you seen the way he was dressed? There's a better picture of him right here. He's kind of almost like not really a trench coat, but got R2 spotting R2 units, or astromech droid at least. And there were some cool moments in here where like she's jumping over that. And I mean, you look at the stills and you're like, wow, this looks really fast. And it's not. It's just kind of there. There's Drash. There's her jumping over some stuff. We get the slide into the bike, which I don't know if they were going for the Akira homage there.
Yeah.
The Akira bike sliding homage, which has been done billions of times. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, go out to YouTube and type in Akira bike montage or homage or something like that. And somebody's compiled tons and tons of footage of everything that you can think of where they've mimicked that shot from Akira. And again, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But okay, so here's we got to see them a little bit more in the Spy Kids / Go-Go Gadget, Inspector Gadget kind of thing, right? He's got this spike that comes out. So this is them displaying their genetically and robotic components. And so he's got this spike that comes out of his heel.
Well, his leg is bionic as well. It's on.
Is it the whole thing?
Yeah,
really?
It's on like a what's it called, a jack.
Yeah, this is par for course. I never know what you're talking about, Albert. Yeah.
Yeah,
I get that a lot.
Yeah,
I get that a lot.
See the text messages. Goodness.
this
He's using the Force.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the sideburns, by the way. The mutton chops. I just thought it was great. Like the bionic
cybernetic mutton
chops. Fantastic. As he pulls a blowtorch.
I said
on the weekends he entertains and makes a really fantastic creme brulee.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Your order's ready. I'm not going to take back what I said last week about the costumes, but I wasn't really a big fan of their costumes here. Like, I thought Drash's looks good. But it was something about, maybe it's just the dude with the eye, the Cyclops guy or cyborg guy, or whatever.
The one with the big eye, or the one that's all sunken in?
No, the one with the big eye.
Okay.
At the very end where they make the dad jokes about,
right,
about not seeing.
See, his I didn't mind. His I didn't mind. This one I found was a little off-putting with the gray jacket and like you said, the Doctor Who kind of style.
Yeah, it's not a tie. Look, it's just like it's like a tuxedo shirt.
Yeah, it's like a tuxedo shirt.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and so here's him cutting into the engines. So they're proving their worth here. And then eventually Doctor Who goes through this. And so I posted the night of, I posted a picture of the Ralph McQuarrie art and said, this is a really nice piece by Ralph McQuarrie. Sure would be a darn shame if something were to happen to it. So if you blink and you'll miss this scene here, but there is a scene in this episode where he goes through this painting that these two guys are carrying across, which is a trope in itself. I mean, this goes back to like the Laurel and Hardy days. There's an old 30s movie where, they're pulling something out and they go through it and that sort of thing. So it's just been done a million times over. The only thing that's different about this painting is they took out Luke Skywalker. He's not in this. Like in the actual Ralph McQuarrie, Luke is standing there, and it's supposed to be that scene where he's confronting confronting Jabba and talking about these, oh, mighty powerful Jabba, that whole thing. That's the
Right.
scene here. But anyways, they end up going
You
to the
got
painting.
Boba Fett in the painting.
Is he really?
Yeah, to the right
Oh
of
yeah, he is. I didn't
Bib
check. I didn't
Fortuna.
see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they left that in there. So here he is crashing through the painting.
Man, no respect.
No respect. I didn't get this scene with the little bits here.
Yeah, the rickshaw thing. It was
Yeah.
just, again, one of those tropes of a reason to peel out and get out of the way.
Yep. More footage of Drash looking cool and menacing. I love this shot.
Yeah.
That's really nice. She's kind of up. This is when she goes up on top of the building and she's getting ready to land her moped at about 5 miles an hour right on top of the vehicle that's going 4 miles an hour
Right.
down below. And so she takes out his engines. He goes spinning around, goes and crashes into all those fruits. And those fruits, by the way, are the ones from
Bad Batch.
No, it's not those. It's the one from Rebels. There's a scene in Rebels where I think it's when they are on, I can't remember the planet now. I need to go back and watch this, but there's that fruit is there. So it's not really important. Again, it's probably just another little, and I could be wrong, but I think that's just another Easter egg. But this scene was cool. And this is the one that we talked about where they kind of sped up, that she came in and it was like, whoa, suddenly it got really fast and exciting, but it was literally the last thing that we saw.
All right.
But we're not going to harp on that anymore. But overall, it was fine. It's all fine now. How are you?
Yep.
So these ships, you probably know more than this. So now we got over to the very end where these ships are coming in and they look like passenger ships.
Yeah, which are transports. Yeah.
If you think about how much money the Pikes are saving by flying coach along with other
That's
people,
right.
I was like, why did they not have their own ships? I don't understand that.
At least they didn't make them fly freight. So
yeah, right. Does this look like the what is it? The Galactic Star Cruiser? What's the name of that stinking ship now?
Halcyon.
Halcyon, yeah. Is that? I have never.
I don't think so.
To be honest, I've never really looked at it. It's not the same, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. These look like Krrsantan ships. Like if you look at this shot right here, yeah. I mean, it's like everything about Krrsantan design is in this, which I thought was really neat.
Yeah. It was instantly recognizable like that, which I think is cool. You can actually recognize some of the styles of ships. I think that's fun when you're able to do that.
Yep. Such a very distinct design. And then here come the Pikes. They're all kind of marching out.
Yeah. Roll incognito.
Right. Well, it's just us, the Pikes coming out. But he talks about this as being and then this is where, again, Spy Kids, he's kind of spying on them. Jorgen fruit. Yeah, I think that's right. I think he's right. Rob came through
sounds right
on the fruit there. But yeah, so Cyborg decides that he's going to go ahead and call over to Boba Fett. And I'm calling this because I don't have any names for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boba tells him to keep an eye on things.
Yep. Keep an eye on things. But the funny part is, we'll get to the jokes here in a second. But he, at the very end, he tells him, look, there's been a ton of these coming off the ship. And it looks like they're massing a group of these Pikes because they're going to war. Fennec makes that comment about they are going to war. And this was just the first wave. So we expect there's going to be more coming in and landing. And he says, then we'll be ready. So to me, I'm kind of reading that as there's going to be a war at the palace. Like, I don't know. I don't think maybe Boba takes the war to them, which could happen. But if I'm Boba Fett and I've got like 6 people right now that I can trust, and that's my army, I'm better off bunkering in the palace and using whatever kind of palace defenses are there, outside of, enlisting more help as the next couple episodes play out, and maybe even getting the Tusken Raiders to come in and save the day at the very end, which I still think is going to happen, because we spent so much time with them. But what do you think here? I mean, either way, it sounds like, and here's something else. So, sorry. You remember in the trailer for this, we were originally, there's that one scene where they're up together at nighttime.
Yeah.
Up in what looks to be an outside area. And we didn't know what it was at the time. We were speculating whether that was Jabba's palace or not. I wonder if that's the scene where they know they're about to come and attack them. And they're just kind of up there, waiting, taking point at nighttime, waiting for that attack to first start.
Yeah. Or
maybe that's speculating.
Maybe that's when their romance starts to bud. I think this is, again, I think next episode, we're going to see the Trandoshans. I think we're going to start to see this coming together and bringing, these other aligning these different families, if you will, to strike back against the Pikes, or at least be ready for the Pikes. I'm really curious to see what kind of defenses Jabba's palace has got, because it doesn't really look like it has anything. I mean, it looks a bit
Mhm.
like a fortress, so it's probably fortified, but doesn't really have any true defenses. And so I'm interested to see if it's got some surprises up its sleeve. I have a feeling there might be a couple, but I really don't know what to expect on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're definitely next week we're definitely going to start to see things start to get a bit organized here.
And you know the best way to get all of your defenses ready for an incoming war?
What's that?
Montage.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just
We
like
get them like, it's like the Mandalorian
it's
episode
like
where the
Cobb
village
Vanth, yeah, with the Tuscans.
and the Tuscans. Yeah, exactly. So they're going to prepping. They're going to prep. They're going to see that some of them don't work. And so they're going to start putting the spy kids together. They're going to use their robotic parts to fix it. There'll be 80s music playing in the background. And then it'll end with them ready for the incoming attack.
So is this a chance where, yeah, if you were to put money on anything, is this a chance where maybe a Cobb Vanth starts to surface? Yeah, but they have a relationship with Tuscans out in Mos Pelgo now, right? So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, there's others that he could start to try to recruit as well. Is that maybe not next week, but is that something that maybe we see? Does that seem more likely to happen at this point now?
I think it's going to really make it depend on how big of a threat there is. If he feels like, what I have here is not enough, and who else do I know on this planet that I could ally with? I mean, why wouldn't he go to a Cobb Vanth and say, look, this is, you're one for his whole thing is keeping the riffraff out, right? He doesn't want these criminal organizations in his area, right? He made that very clear. And maybe Boba tells him, look, it's only a matter of time. If Mos Espa falls, and then Isley goes next. It's only a matter of time before your town. What was
Right.
it called again?
Mos Pelgo.
Pelgo. Yeah, it's only a matter of time before that goes down. So it's in your best interest to kind of help out here.
Yeah.
You got to
And I think
fight these guys off.
yeah, the only thing that's not there, we don't have a connection yet with Boba and Cobb Vanth. We know that Boba knows Cobb Vanth, but we don't have a direct connection to where they actually know each other and get along. So we don't know that there's a positive connection there yet.
Yeah,
And we suspect it, but again, we don't know if Boba knew that he had the armor and allowed that to continue, or if there was something else keeping him from it. So I think
What
that's
if
the other part with Cobb Vanth that's a little unclear.
what if Vanth gets wind that there's now a Mandalorian in Mos Espa, and Vanth decides he's going to go check it out to find out what's going on, especially since it used to be his armor. Or
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
yeah,
I'm trying to figure out how to
no,
connect the two, but
I think that's perfectly valid too. I think that's very, very reasonable. I don't know.
I keep bringing up montages, and Rob keeps saying no. And then he said, "This isn't Revenge of the Nerds," which is true. That's kind of where some of this is coming
You're
from.
right, but it's every other 80s movie instead.
Rambo did a montage where he was preparing for
That's
the
true.
incoming attack.
So did Rocky.
That was in First Blood.
Yeah.
In that movie.
Rocky.
Well, that's a training montage. He wasn't preparing for. Well, I guess he was preparing for war against the Russian,
Yeah.
whose
Drago.
butt he kicked. Take that, Russia. Hey, so before we get out of here,
Hold
the last
I like.
what?
Did you laugh when Fennec said, "Tell us what you see"?
Yes, that's what I was say. That was
Yeah.
like the last. Like everybody focused on the dad joke of
She threw
keep
her
an
arm
eye
in
on
there.
them, keep an eye on them, and it was like, oh, sorry, it's just a joke, and I was laughing at that. But then she gets off her last zinger of let us know what you see. So, and I
Perfect.
don't think it was meant to be a dad joke or a whatever pun, but I thought it was funny.
Fennec's got a sense of humor. You don't know. She really
Yeah,
does.
maybe she does.
Yeah, she doesn't get enough credit for it.
Okay, let's end the show on this because I know we're way over on time. But what about, let's see. So let's just assume they're going to go to war. Who do you want Boba to align? Like, who does he have now? And then who do we expect him to kind of go after to start creating this little army, if you will, to kind of go up against the crime syndicate? Oh, wait, hold on. We skipped over one thing.
Okay.
When the Hutts are there, they talked about a larger syndicate. Like, we haven't really spoken Crimson Dawn or Crimson Dawn much,
Right.
but it does feel like that's where it's going because I can't think of another criminals organization. Now, granted, the Hutts are they're very limited now. They're not like they used to be, right? They're not. Well, of course, I don't know what now Hutt looks like at this point.
Right.
I don't think anybody knows, but at least it seems like whoever this other syndicate that they mention is big enough that it's got everybody shaking in their boots, and the Hutts are like, we're leaving. Like we don't want any part of this because it's going to be a hot mess. And when I saw that, or I guess read that or heard it or whatever, I thought, okay, maybe this is a way to tie in Kira and Crimson Dawn. Like if there's any one organization, like all the other ones, like Black Sun and the Pikes and Kanji Club or whoever's been out there right at this point, I don't think they're that big that people would be like, we're getting the hell out of Dodge because this is going to be, there's a big force coming in, or that whoever is coming in is got a lot of power. And I think maybe that is somebody like Akira.
Well, and we don't know, to be honest with you. So Crimson Reign came out with issue 1 just this past week. And what we learned in Crimson Reign, well, one, there's some conflicting information. At the very end of it, they say this was the beginning of the end of Crimson Dawn. Now, that could be a very misleading statement. We're moving from Crimson Dawn to Crimson Reign, maybe. Or, but during the book, though, Kira says that they're a small organization. They don't have, they have the right kind of resources, but they don't have the personnel or anything to really take on any of the other syndicates. Now, that story right now is in the Empire Strikes Back, in between Empire and Return of the Jedi. So that's several years in the past from where we're at now. So it's unclear. Yeah. So it's really unclear where Crimson Dawn is going, and that book is working its way at the same time we're doing this. So I don't know that we're going to get a whole lot to glean from that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, how much do you cross over with comics? But then we got Black Krrsantan. So it's something where, it's something where we'll have to see if they're really coordinating that type of reveal, if you will. I think it's probably not super likely to bring in Crimson Dawn. I would really like that, but the way that they're doing, they almost make it lead you to believe that Kira is not around anymore at some point in the near future. So again, difficult to see what that actually means, but we also know that there is another series of comics coming out called The Hidden Empire.
Yeah.
And that could very much be what we're seeing here, the very early sprinklings of that idea. And that's why I think there's a very real possibility that could be it, but it's a little too soon to tell to really make a firm connection anywhere, right?
Right. So there was the last shot there of "We'll be ready." So I was going to go through this, but in the interest of time, how about then I'll just kind of give you what I have.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Boba Fett's potential army that he's putting together. He's got himself, Fennec Shan. He's got Bebop and Rocksteady. He's got the Spy Kids. He's got Baby Rancor. He's got Tusked and She, I think, who will show up at some point. He's got Black K, Krrsantan, to show up as well. I think he's going to align with him. If those are the pieces for his army, is that enough?
Nope.
Do you think he's going to need more? And if so, does he go to like the bounty hunters that he used to work with and say, look, I'm now the big guy in charge here, and come work for me? Or is there other people here that we're not thinking about?
Well, we know that he's going to meet with the Trandoshans, and that they're at his table. We've seen that in the trailers. So that seems to be the next major, I don't know if we can call them a syndicate, but at least the major family or the major party within Mos Espa. So that seems to be the next logical connection for him to make, because they seem to be on the outskirts of, the water, or the workers district is under, one control, and the Pikes. And so it seems like this other one is the only one that's really on its own and set, that he could go to and see if there's maybe some opportunity there, and how many resources they have seems more likely to strike an alliance there, because again, they have a common interest with Mos Espa. They likely don't want to lose their power and control either. And if someone else is making a power move, it makes a lot of sense for them to align, because they've got a common, potential common enemy, even if they might not always see eye to eye there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. We talked about Cobb Vanth. I don't know. It's hard to say who else he could align with. I mean, there could be people that we're just not thinking of and we've had plenty of characters that have just been introduced in this series that we would never have called because they're brand new. So there's still people out there, but I guess to answer my own question, I don't know that that's going to be enough unless they're relying solely on the fact that what they have is what they have and it's good. And they're going to, bunker in on the fortress, but
it's going to be the Alamo. I mean, wouldn't
that be cool?
What's a trope? I mean, yeah. I mean, you get the you have the party that everything, the odds are all against you. You're slammed within one place, which is usually just horrible, and you've got these mass armies all around you, and the odds are not in your favor, and somehow you inspire something else to happen, I guess, and that's kind of where your Tuscans might come in.
Yeah.
It's like Two Towers too, right, from Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Same idea.
Yeah, and I think I'm ultimately, I hope it's going to be the Tuscan tribes, and I'm not saying they need to bring all of them together or any of that stuff, but we just don't know. Again, in the next 4 episodes and flashbacks, maybe we see some of that or the beginnings of that. But to have the Tuscans come back would then, give us a big payoff for, aligning with them and changing who he was and paying off for that new character that's been developed because of them. That would, I don't know. There's some poetic justice there, so we'll see.
All right. And what we don't know is that he actually made the call to the Tuscans like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they're just still riding their banthas trying to get to where they need to be.
Right. This is all contingent upon the average speed of a bantha.
Yeah. We don't know if they're going to get there in time. It's going to be really close call.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's end it there.
Yeah. 2:15, man. 2 hours and 15 minutes. This is pretty impressive, even for us.
We've gone longer. And,
I mean, for chapter 3, I don't know that we've gotten in the middle of a season quite like this.
Yeah. And plus an episode that was only 30, 38 minutes, 36 minutes after you.
This one did feel longer than that, though. And maybe it's because there were very distinct parts to it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I was kind of expecting the episode to more or less end after we got the Rancor, not necessarily go back into town.
Right. Okay. Well, people are saying goodnight and goodbyes, and that's fair. Thank you guys. Again, very flattered that as many people decided to stay up and watch this than whatever else they do.
Yeah, this was exciting. Thank you, everyone that came out. A lot of people chatting tonight. We love seeing the active chat. It gives us a lot of things to put up on screen and call you guys out. You guys have a lot of great ideas, and yeah, we try not to steal too many of them. We definitely want to give credit where it's due. We promise.
Yes. Okay, we'll end the show here. We've got Patreon to do still this week. Probably this weekend is what it's looking like. And then we've got, we'll come back next week and do obviously chapter 4. But we are getting kind of close to, I don't know. Did you finish Fallen Star?
I'm getting pretty close.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to spoil anything, but that's coming up. I definitely want to talk about that. I have a lot to say about it. And, we'll probably pick that up after this show, Book of Boba Fett. I don't know if we're going to try to run this simultaneously because I think there's definitely some stuff we want to dig into on the Fallen Star for anybody that's following the High Republic, and really kind of talk about what we expect next.
Well, and I think another good reason why to wait just a little while longer for Fallen Star is that with some of the High Republic comics, they feed directly into where like Avar Kriss is at, and so I think it's important for us to get some of those stories and let those absorb, so we can see how Avar and the Ataraxia come back into the Fallen Star and just make all those connections. We don't always have a chance to make those connections when we get right into the books because of all of the other young adult books or whatever else is there. So this is good to give us a little extra time to get all of that extra information and to really help us out here. Yeah. And we'll have a little Marquis on Row to throw in there at that point too.
Oh, and by the way, yes, Marquis on Row, because we've got more information. So I want to I'm sorry, I know this is going long. I have a ton of books that I want to give away when we do the High Republic episode. These are just extra copies that I've gotten over the years. Or I guess over the last year. So we'll be doing giveaways for that too, but we'll promote that. And we need to promote the Boba Fett thing. We didn't do it this week. That's on us. We forgot to push that out there, but we got the comics still. So we will get something out for the next episode, and we will pick a winner for the comic. So we've got giveaways coming. So if we bore you enough and you don't like the show, at least you can get something free by tuning in and listening and watching the live stream.
Right.
Yep. Recording.
Just a little thank you from us to y'all. We appreciate all the support and y'all listening. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Any final words before we go?
No. Let's do it.
Okay. We'll see you guys next week.
You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good fun stuff. But I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. Can't? Well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what. So that's your disclaimer.